Think to yourself, the smallest, tiniest businessman that has a successful business running, and he doesn't have a natural successor, isn't he going to look to do something with the business or just let it drop? How in the world would you accuse the Lubavitch Rebbe, which everyone knows is a very proper person, that he would take a company that he didn't build? It was built for 7 generations, and he'll just let it drop down the cliff? And befrat that the Rebbe took us up to the cliff. The whole Tafshin Nun and Aleph, the Rebbe says, come. And he takes us to the peak of the cliff and leaves us. So logically, there's got to be a plan. And my way of explaining the plan is, avoid the bochur chatzmai. The Rebbe says, you didn't get it till now. I'm going to have to kind of walk to the side a second, and I want to see how you guys are going to act without me answering and writing and verbringing. Let's see how you can do it.
Welcome to Homesick for Lubavitch, a podcast where we explore Lubavitch identity in the year 2026. My name is Bosi Lgani, and I will be your host. Let's begin. Alrighty, we are here in Flatbush, Brooklyn, with Reb Zalman Lieberow, who it turns out is a cousin as well, and we'll get to that soon. A shliach in Flatbush, Brooklyn. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thanks.
And it's nice meeting you. It's nice meeting you. Aleichem shalom. So
it's good to know your cousins.
It's good to get to know your cousins, yeah.
Especially when we have so many.
Especially, yes.
The Haftons have plenty, the Lieberows have plenty.
The Lieberows have a lot of cousins. Through
Futerfas, not so many.
That's what I was going to say.
But Shem Tov's second cousins, I have plenty.
You're saying once you go a second cousin,
Yeah, second cousin.
Yeah, Shem Tov, Sabransky, Deitch, forget about it.
Deitch are not even really, it's like...
Doesn't count. Fair enough. All right, we'll get to it in a moment. But before we begin, just a short reminder to anyone listening that enjoys the podcast, please like and subscribe on the platforms. And if you really like it, please support the podcast at hflpodcast.com/donate. Reb Zalman, let's begin from the beginning, shall we? Let me just have you turn, if you don't mind, a little bit straight to me so people can see. Why don't we start from the beginning? You already mentioned Futerfas, Shem Tov, Lieberow. We know your last name is Lieberow. Give us a little bit of the background of where you come from.
Well, my mother is Futerfas. My grandfather's only daughter.
Mendel Futerfas.
Yeah, yes. And that's where I come from that side. From my father's side, I'm Lieberow, Sadia Lieberow.
So describe a little bit your two Zaydas, Reb Sadia and Reb Mendel.
Well, quite known. It's repetitive a little bit, but you know.
How many times have people heard about these two people from their grandson? Probably not so many.
Okay.
Reb Mendel at this point is a caricature. I mean, he's a legend kind of thing.
Yeah. I even meet all different, Polish Hasidim that get very inspired by his name.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he really got in there very strong. The Polish world, the
Litvish world also. He was circulating on the internet a few months ago. Mendel Futerfas.
Yeah, but mainly in the Chassidish world. Melech Biederman keeps mentioning him, and so Baruch Hashem. At least he has people hopefully will learn from him, from his Mesiras Nefesh. But even more, a stronger point I think of his Mesiras Nefesh is his absolute devotion to the Rebbe. Absolute, mamash. The Rebbe is his only thing in his life. And what else should I say? I mean, everything is known.
I know we're jumping around a little bit, but Mendel went into Siberia, obviously, the time that the Frierdiker Rebbe was Rebbe, right?
Right, yeah.
That's what he knew.
Right.
When did he find out that there was a new Rebbe, and when did, how did he deal with that?
I'm not so good at all the stories, but everything is kind of printed already. But basically, the interrogator, I think, kind of teased him with it and something like that with the passing of the Frierdiker Rebbe. I don't remember exactly, so I don't want to say things that are not, meduyak.
Okay, so let's talk about your personal experiences.
But the famous story that everyone really knows is about the letter that he got from the Frierdiker Rebbe. The email, as you call it, that he communicated with the Frierdiker Rebbe based on what he heard from the Frierdiker Rebbe when the Frierdiker Rebbe left Russia about machshava me'eles, that that I'm betrachten, you'll think, and I'll think, I'll communicate. So he wanted to write a letter about his wife, my grandmother, which was very sick on the way out of Russia. And when he had an opportunity, when he settled, kind of after the interrogations and so on, so he kind of wanted to communicate. But how's he going to communicate? No paper, no envelope, no stamp, no gartel, no mikveh, whatever. So he was writing it in his mind. He was writing the letter in his mind, asking for a bracha, and believing like every chassid believes. But you don't expect a physical response. You expect the same way. You think he'll think, and the Rebbe was helping. But sure enough, he didn't know this till 20 years later. But sure enough, a letter did come back wherever my grandmother was at the time. I think in Germany, somewhere on the way. So a letter came from the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the letter says, "B'mayin ala pan," in response to your pan that you're asking for bracha. And he gave an answer. So it came back in writing. So that's a fascinating. I mean, we don't have so many stories literally like that, but it teaches. It's lamad ala klal. It teaches us that there is communication. The Rebbe finds it, like the Rebbe said about the Frierdiker Rebbe, finden the weg. So also today that we don't have the ability to write to the Rebbe, we can write, but it's not the same. So we believe that the Rebbe finds ways of communication. But this is just an unbelievable example, which is a fascinating story. But you're doing mafursim,
Right. It's still a beautiful story.
Yeah.
So when was the first time you met him? Because you were growing up in England with your parents.
So
right?
I actually have this chus that he was my sandik.
Oh yeah.
Because I was the first grandchild born after he came. He came in Tafshin Chav Daled, and I was born in Tafshin Chav Hey. So a year plus. Actually, not long ago, my older brother told me a very good feeling story. That he says, I entered into the world with a fabrengen. Why? Because
that you entered, or your brother?
No, my brother was telling me about me.
Your older brother.
Yeah, I don't remember when I entered into the world.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't know if it was.
No, he was telling me that like I didn't know this till a couple of years ago. Now, he said that naturally, my grandfather at that time was staying by my father. Listen, it was in our house, and usually the baby's born. It comes to Shalom Zacha. But over here, because of all the excitement in Mendel Futerfas, so people came over to say Mazel Tov to him. For him, it was a big simcha.
The first Einikel born after he came back.
Yeah. So when they came in to say Mazel Tov, what happens when you come to say Mazel Tov to the Mendel Futerfas? It became a fabrengen. So soon after my birth, there was already a fabrengen. Like I came in with a fabrengen. It's an interesting episode, besides the Shalom Zacha. So he was my sandik, yeah. Also, Bashgacha Pratis Mamish, one of my children managed to be, maybe even the last that he was a sandik. My first two boys, my first boy, so my father was a sandik. And my second boy, my father-in-law wasn't exactly around. He wasn't here. But my second boy was born actually, Zayin Sivan, Tafshin Daled. So his bris was Monday morning, Dalet Tammuz, non-Dalet.
Wow.
Right after, it was like a chaotic bris, obviously. There was no Suda, whatever, it was, it was what it was.
There's no Suda.
Yeah, as far as I remember, there was, whatever. You can understand what was going on the next day. Yeah. So, but my Zaydas, and I invited Shlomo Majeski. I was looking for Chassid Sheyid.
To be a sandik.
And he came along, Taki, I barely came along, whatever, but, he was there already with his talus. This is all happening, there's no plans. So I already spoke to him before Shabbos about being the sandik. So he showed up Monday morning in the Chabad house.
Here in Flatbush?
In Flatbush, yeah.
Flatbush.
In Ocean Avenue.
Right.
And then my Zayda flew in like a lot of people. He came in also Gimel Tammuz.
Your Zayda Mendel.
Yeah, he flew in from Eretz Yisrael. He wasn't really doing well, but he flew in, and he was here Sunday, and then naturally Monday morning his Einikel was having a bris, his Ur Einikel, so he came, and he's there, and he's not going to be the sandik. So I remember that I have a memory of that. I walked over to Reb Shlomo and I said, Reb Shlomo, my Zayda, could you please, sure, it's my batter. And then later, Shlomo was a sandik, another one of my sons. The one passed away, unfortunately. But so my Zayda was a sandik for this. He's now a shliach in Brazil, Yossi. So he was a sandik. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have had him as a sandik, you know.
Right.
He just came.
He wouldn't have been here.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he stayed a couple of days. He couldn't really even move around so much. He stayed in the Chabad until he went back to England. And then, like I told you before, he didn't end up coming anymore to the Rebbe. So he lasted one more year. Gimel Tam was in Dal, now in Hay. And the next day, Rebbe Lishonach, he passed away. That's his. Yeah.
What was he like in private? Do you have any zecharias of him as a Zayda, like outside of the public persona?
Again, I'm not, I'm not a Balzikaran. I don't have such memory, but I did live by him. 1 year I was completely, I lived over there, mamash.
Where was this?
In Kvachabad.
Yeah. So he moved to Eretz Yisrael after your mother passed away?
Well, the Rebbe kind of already spoke to him a little bit about it. Shlomo Chaim Kesselman passed away in Iyar Tavshin Lamed Aleph. So again, all these things are not.
And your Zayd at the time was in London.
Yeah.
What did he do in London between Chof Daled and Lamed Aleph? How did he keep himself busy?
He was. I think he opened up with the help of Deitch, his cousin. Chal Zayda was a seicher.
Right. He comes from a family of seicherim. His father was.
Yeah. As far as I understand it, all the business that he ran in the 30s, in the tzaddiks, whatever, in Russia was all a business to make money for Temchet Mim. There was no.
Who's the Zayda?
My Zayda, yeah. My Zayda, I don't even know what he did exactly, but he was.
You're saying in the black market business?
Yeah, something like that. He was he was a shrewd person.
No, I'm saying his father had a factory in Kharkov.
That I didn't even know.
Yeah.
His father?
His father, Mendel Futerfas and Mariasha.
Yeah.
The one that passed away before Mendel Mendel, right? So Mendel Futerfas Senior had a rubber boot factory in Kharkov.
Could be. Okay.
They were relatively well-to-do people back then. I was told that the money that his mother had as an almana, she had a little bit of money, left from the business, whatever she had. I don't know, she sold the business or whatever it was. A lot of that money went to paying for Mendel and Hendel to go to Temchet Mim and for people to watch them while they were there.
Okay.
Homesick for Lubavitch is brought to you by Yuvla Media, a boutique video production company that I have run for close to 10 years. Today, Yuvla Media works with organizations all around the country, bringing their stories to life in a way that is both meaningful and memorable. Whether it's a video for a milestone dinner, an online fundraiser, or a building campaign, we begin each project with the same question: what does your audience need to know about you to feel more connected to your cause? Once we answer that question, we tailor-make a video that best addresses this need. Over the years, we have built a reputation for top-of-the-line visuals while also being responsive and reliable. As one of our clients put it, a combination of technical excellence and real heart. If you are looking to make a video for an upcoming dinner, fundraiser, or building campaign, please reach out to us to schedule a 15-minute phone call to see if we can make something beautiful together. Email us at hello@yuvlamedia.com. Again, that is hello@yuvlamedia.com. A link can be found in the show notes. And now, back to the show.
I wonder if now they're giving out a new book again. A lot of work is going to it. I wonder if that information is them. Stama. I didn't remember that piece of information. But as far as I understand, he was a good. He was shrewd. Everyone knows that, and he used to make money for Temchet Mim, not for himself.
Right.
But then when he came to England, so he opened up a business.
Oh, yeah.
Called, I remember as a child, Nest Plastics, it was called. I'll show him the Nest of him coming out of Russia. Nest Plastics.
And he worked with Deitch from America.
Yeah, but I don't know how much I don't remember him. I was a baby when he came. I was just born, right? In my growing up years, so that's the thing. Could be when I can remember is like when I'm 6 or 7. So then he already kind of is in Eretz Yisrael. So I don't really have a time that I could have remembered, but I don't know how much he was physically involved. I have to ask my older brother if he was physically involved in the mischer or just, on the outskirts of it. But what I do know is, I heard or whatever, that the way the business worked was 50% was based Lubavitch. And the other 50 was divided between the three families, my Zayda and my father and my uncle. That's what I understood. That can be confirmed by Mendel Futerfas, but this is what I always remember.
That 50% of the business went
50 was based Lubavitch. It was a shutaf, 100% shutaf was based Lubavitch. So, and then he had his kvias that he used to go, he continued it even after he became a mashpia in Eretz Yisrael, but he had his kvias that he used to spend a couple of months, raising money for Ezra Sachim, for for Al Torah later. That's a very interesting story about Al Torah, that he used to raise money for Pidyon Shvuyim. That's what it was called. I think it was to go to the Rebbe, and I'm not sure exactly the
There's
details.
a lot of famous stories that people say of him going to businessmen with Kunin and like all over America, right?
No, Kunin. He used to go with Shmuel from Right. Yeah.
That's but in California.
He was a shadar. He used to verbring California, Michigan.
I didn't know though that he was a businessman also. That like he took care of himself on his own, and then this was for the mices.
100%.
He wasn't living off the fundraising.
Nah.
No, I
don't think he took a percent even.
That's what I'm saying.
He was a shadar. He was raising money. But it's a very interesting story that he.
I didn't know that shadars were businessmen. Sometimes I didn't know that.
No, I don't know. There's different types of
I'm saying I didn't know that was a thing. Apparently with him it was a thing.
Yeah, but he wasn't really, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how much he was involved in the actual business. You know what I mean?
Okay, but he was doing something.
Yeah. But he was a shadar. He used to verbring.
Right.
And raise money for the Rebbe's most this way. I don't know exactly what, Then they wanted him to raise money for the Torah. For the Torah, was it in England? I'm not sure exactly where. But he asked the Rebbe in Yechidus, something like that. And he told the Rebbe something that he's raising money for Pidyon Shvuyim. So the Rebbe said, for kinder was learning to save kids from learning the Mudechel is Pidyon Shvuyim. Aggress the Pidyon Shvuyim.
Really?
Yeah. That's how strong. It's a very powerful line.
So
he raised also for that. I don't know exactly how his raising went. You know what I mean?
Right.
My cousin Shlomi Futerfas even traveled with him several times, and I don't know much about the details, but that's what he used to do. He used to bring gates at him, snagdisha places. He was accepted. And then Stama, what his main occupation was, it was Chiddushei in London. I don't remember. These are the years I don't remember. So in Kfar Chabad. Yeah, so then
he moved to Kfar Chabad.
So what happened was, I think the Rebbe already spoke to him something in Yechidus. He got called to come to the Rebbe, something like that. I think Talmud's time. None of these things are meduyik, you know what I mean?
Okay, we put the disclaimer already. It's okay.
Okay,
it's a podcast. It's a podcast. It's fine.
Okay. And then the Rebbe told him to go to Eretz Yisrael. And I'm not sure if the Rebbe told him then that it's connected to taking over the position of the Mashpia of Shlomo Chaim, but the Rebbe did tell him something. You should go to Mokem Sekdoshim and Oisbet Nalag with the Zachen. So my brother told me that they assuming can't wissen exactly that was like a kind of a makdim refuah l'maka to the accident that happened a month later.
Which was
the car accident when my mother passed away.
I don't know the story. I mean, I've heard.
Oh, I mean, there's a big nest because that car those days. My father was driving and my mother was in the front.
Where was this, in England?
In England, yeah. And she was also pregnant and had a baby brother, which was not even a year old. And in those days, there were no minivans and seatbelts and ISIS. It was a small cargo van that my father had, and we were 10 kids in the car.
Your father was also a businessman?
My father worked in Nest Plastics.
Oh, he worked with the Schwer, yeah.
And it was an accident that the car turned over, and all 10 of us.
Where was this, on a highway?
It was right before the tunnel, the back of the tunnel. It's called. Yeah, I don't remember. And I was out of the 10 children that were there, besides my father and mother. So I was the only one that went to the hospital because I sprained my back. I was sitting on a cookie box, whatever, for 2-3 days, and my little brother was there just for checkups. So we all came out, mamash, unharmed. My father was injured. And my mother passed away
from the accident.
Yeah. So I'm saying the Rebbe said that he should always bet knowledge with the Zachen. It was a kind of a makdim refuah l'maka or something like that,
How old were you when this happened?
I was 6 years old.
6 years old.
Yeah. And whatever. And then after that, the following year was already when it kind of came together. This accident and then Shlomo Chaim passing away before that. So the following year he was sent to be a mashpia in Kfar Chabad. Right. So that's when he comes to Eretz.
And by him you mean him and your baba. We haven't spoken about her yet, but
him
and your and his wife.
I'm talking about my Zayda.
Right, but he went there with his wife, right?
Yeah,
we haven't mentioned her. But he wasn't single.
No.
Right.
No.
I'm assuming, for people that don't know the history.
Right. No,
his wife was in England while he was in Russia.
Right.
And then
for 20, for close to 20 years.
Right. They were married before. They were married in Russia.
Sure.
Then she escaped. He stayed. Maybe we should Let's cover that briefly, the little bit that you know.
The
I know you're going to give a disclaimer.
Very important part of that story is that everyone knows that he was involved with the Munchkins and the underground operation.
One second, let me just open up for people, because not everyone knows.
I can't understand.
I mean, even I don't know the details, but basically, after the war was over, Second World War, there was a Eisrotzen for
an opportunity, because the Russians that didn't let anyone out,
besides the Polish,
let the Polish people that came in from the war to go back out. So that was that opportunity they took advantage of.
They forged
Polish documents, and they hundreds of Lubavitches, which became big families, came out at that time out of Russia. They escaped.
Yeah, both sides of my family came out that way.
Right, and even the Rebbe's mother came out like that, Rebbe Zalman. So, and
Mendel was
involved. At a certain point, he was very involved.
Right.
He was one of, there was a bunch of people, I don't remember exactly all of them, the Munchkins, and there was Mumasara, and so on. And then when they started to feel that the Soviets are locking in. So he, at that point, it was like the last hope. So he was going to go naturally. He was going to hop on the last train together with his family. And then Reb Yoina Poltava, which was also part of it, Yoina Khan, his name was, I think upstairs in Oren Kodesh in 770, I think, used to, it still has his name in Oren Kodesh. So Yoina Poltava told him, I never knew that Mesiras Nefesh has a limit. Mesiras Nefesh means you go till the end. Whatever was there was still to do, I don't know. But so he took it. It really got to the right place, and he sent his family, and he stayed till the end.
And Yoina Poltava also stayed?
Yeah, sure. Yoina Poltava would go. Yoina Poltava, I don't even know exactly what happened, if he survived or not. They arrested all the Chevra eventually, and some of them were killed, and some of them died. I don't know exactly, and he survived. I don't know, the Munchkins somehow, I don't know the details of who.
But it's not Negev. For Mendel,
right. He survived, but Derech HaTeva, it's related a lot to his strength and his shrewdness.
Derech
HaTeva, obviously, and they were still whatever. So he survived through the jail period in Siberia, and that's basically the story. Right, but the point is, the Mesiras Nefesh doesn't have a limit.
Yeah,
can't say I'm doing Mesiras Nefesh till here.
No, the point of the story is it's a nice vart, but he actually paid the price for it.
Right.
It's a vart. I can see a lot of people saying, in the mikveh late in the morning in Crown Heights, but what are the consequences? Yeah. So your Baba lived in London for 20 years.
My Baba, yeah.
And she didn't know if he was alive or not a lot of that time, right?
I mean, at a certain point they already had information. I don't know.
It wasn't exactly, you didn't have Amnesty, what are these organizations checking up on the prisoners?
Basically, but they knew, I mean, I don't know.
It was a difficult time, is my point.
I don't know exactly what degree, but...
they weren't in touch on a regular basis.
For sure not.
And he came back to London 20 years later, so when your mother passed away and then they moved to Eretz Yisrael, it was with your Baba. I just wanted to clarify that for people.
Yes. And a few members of my family went along because they were in the same.
A few of your older siblings?
Two sisters and the baby boy, which is his name is Yisraelik, so he went along also, and and then later I guess it was they asked the Rebbe, they took me also when I was 11, so I stayed there. I learned in Chabad and Talmud Torah, and then I went on to yeshiva in Lud. So I was dorming, but that was my house. So So
what was it like to live with him at home? No, but describe him to me as a Zayda, not as a...
I have a memory of me being very homesick a few months later, Pesach time, and I remember him sitting on my bed and calming me down, whatever. I don't remember what he was telling me, but whatever. He was always ish kloli, but he was, I mean, like, family person. I mean, just talking about family, just lately they circulated somehow, I don't know, it just somehow got out and people were circulating a picture of my first sister's wedding to Weingarten, now in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So the family picture, he's laying over there, versteht sich ein bisschen schicker, he's laying, a family picture, but he's laying on a few chairs.
Oh, I think I've seen that picture, yeah.
Whatever, that's what he was, he was... I mean, I remember, obviously, he was always, whenever he traveled, anyone asked him to take me something, he always took. My grandmother sometimes used to get all upset.
He was a happy person.
Very, very, sure.
Okay, he lived a very difficult life.
Right, but he was.
For those who don't know, he passed away. His father had passed away while his mother was pregnant. So he passed away without a father.
Right.
He was named after his father.
Yeah.
Then
born without a father.
Yeah, right. He was born without a father. Then he, like you said, he was in Siberia with his family in England, separated completely for 20 years, and then he came to England. His sister, Estegol, had passed away just earlier. Just before. His mother had passed away a few years before. Right? And then his daughter passes away a few years later. I mean, each of these on their own are enough to break a person.
But he, like I said before, I was telling you the story.
I wanted to say it again.
Yeah. So even though he was a person in the years, I think all his life, but at least when I remember him, a Lebedeker person, a person with a smile. His Verbringens were not Musa. His Verbringens were jokes. He was like, Mendel Morozov, if people know him, it's the same style. He was a geschmack person. That's how he attracted everyone. He was a geschmack. It was like a happening by his Verbringens. And some people would call him like a let's, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Everything goes with... So, but even a person like that sometimes can get really, it can get hurt. So the story that I know, and I heard this from someone that, like a first-hand story, that Moshe Katzenellenbogen was with him in the car on the way from the Levaya of his daughter, and he was a kind of pounding to himself. He was like saying, Mendel, was wird sein mit La Skilcha Bina? La Skilcha Bina is chapter 11 in the Igeres HaKodesh in Tanya, where the Alter Rebbe. It's just an interesting point I want to bring out over here. The Alter Rebbe discusses in 2 or 3 places in Tanya, in chapter Chavav, and in chapter of Likutei Amorim, chapter 12 of Igeres HaTshuva, and chapter 11 of Igeres HaKodesh. Those are 3 locations where the Alter Rebbe discusses the attitude that a person is supposed to have towards suffering, unfortunately, for all our enemies. But when it comes upon us, what kind of attitude? So in chapter Chavav, similar to chapter Yud Beis in Igeres HaTshuva, the Alter Rebbe focuses on explaining us the benefits. After all, there's a benefit. Ta'am ha-simcha b'yisurei haguf, because it saves you from worse stuff. So kind of he's psychologically telling you it's worth it. Asher ageve, asher tiyasenu. But in Siman Yud Aleph and Igeres HaKodesh, Alter Rebbe's approach is completely different. He says, "What? You think that the Eibishter did bad to you? What's wrong with you? You're chas v'shalom. It's kfira, because only one that can do anything is the Eibishter, and the Eibishter is good. So it's got to be good, and you can't if you doubt it." So the whole approach is completely. There's no benefits. No one's promising you anything good. It's all about believing in the Eibishter. And that's why we also always ask, what the Rebbe always says, Toiv hanireh v'hanigla. So here he's slapped with such a slap that he barely, after he loses 4 children in the time of the war, or whatever, from machlas, from sicknesses and things.
When they were young.
When they were young, children, I don't know exactly the age range, but it was like from 1 till 4, 4 children.
Just 2 surviving children.
2 surviving children. One of them now, a few years after he comes out of Russia, leaves 11 Yisraelim. So this is so even a guy like him, which for me knowing him, I wouldn't expect him to be broken, because he was such a Lebedeker person. But seemingly it hits a person.
In private, he was saying to himself, he
was saying to himself, like in the car, he was like, Mendel, was wird sein mit La Skilcha Bina? That's the opening 2 words of that chapter. What's going to be? Like, where are you floating, with your thoughts? The Eibishter did it, and that's how he lived. His life was full of emunah and bitochen. And he spread it. All the people that got close, that had to do with him, always had that feeling.
In private, you never sensed any heartbrokenness with him?
I can't remember anything like that. Can't remember. A Lebedeker person, he used to daven b'avoda, hours that I remember, and my Baba never heard from him Kiddush on Shabbos afternoon.
She was okay with that?
Yeah. In that day she gets a lot of credit, because after all her life was,
She also lived a hard life.
For sure. Mendel is a chassid. He's temchet mimim. He's whatever he is. She was. I'm not going to say an ordinary woman. Chas v'shalom. I mean, she was, but
She wasn't put through the fire of Tenchet Mimim that way.
yeah, it's different.
What was her
She
maiden-
after my mother passed away, she couldn't get over it for years.
Really?
Years. Oh, she was. I remember for her. Like saying, for Mendel, the way people know her, you can understand how he overcame it. But for her, you can understand what kind of makkah it was for her. I mean,
Oh yeah.
so she had a very hard time.
What was her maiden name?
Rubinson.
Robinson. So that's a Lubavitch family from from Russia.
Yeah. You have.
Yeah, there's other Robinsons. Yeah.
She had a brother that lived in Lud. Whatever. I mean, there's a lot.
Right. How did was your Zayda Lieberow alive then?
Yeah, live. Yeah.
How did he take it?
That his daughter-in-law passed away. I don't remember exactly, but he was whatever. I don't remember. All right.
Let's talk a little about your Zayda Lieberow.
Yeah. So he was a shliach to Morocco.
All right.
Together, same time, more or less. You know, those days, Matassa was there. What's his name? The Raskin and Edelman come a little later.
Right.
They're in the late Yuds, in the late 50s. But he's there in Tafshin Yud Aleph. And,
With Matasov.
yeah, but he wasn't in the same place. Matassa was Casablanca. He was in Safru. It's a different area. And the reason why he eventually left was, I think the Frierdiker Rebbe spoke to him about, there was, whenever, I don't remember exactly when it was, but not spoke. I mean, it was in letters. He didn't see the Frierdiker. I mean, he came out of Russia before the Frierdiker passed away. But he didn't make it here to America, to New York.
America, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, he actually interesting. He as a bochur, for some reason he davened in the Frierdiker Rebbe the first year after the Rebbe Rashab passed away. So the Frierdiker Rebbe got very sick. It was like 2 months that the Frierdiker Rebbe was mamash
Touch and go.
out, huh?
Very, very not
sick,
well.
yeah. So he was picked for some reason to daven for the Omer and say Kaddish as part of the Shnas Avelos for the Rebbe Rashab.
Because the Frierdiker wasn't shaykh to...
No, the Frierdiker Rebbe was completely, yeah. So he there was discussion about two options. You know, everyone that came out of Russia was sent somewhere. I always tell this to people to understand what's meant Lubavitch, shlichus. You know, guys just crawled out of the Soviet Union, to Brachman and Shashan, Morocco, Tunis. You know what I mean? It's crazy. You think about it.
It's absolutely crazy. Yeah.
So he was So there was a discussion. The Belgium was mentioned. Belgium, Antwerpen. I don't know as what, but whatever. And Morocco, whatever. But Lepel, Tafshin Yud, and then the Rebbe is continuing. The Morocco shlichus started from the Frierdiker Rebbe, but the Rebbe continued it. So he was sent to Tafshin Yud Aleph, and he was there till I think what happened was in Agadir, which is nearby Safru, there was a massive earthquake then. A lot of people were killed. So I think that the whole vicinity, the whole area kind of left, went to Yisrael. I don't know.
People got scared. Yeah.
Basically got emptied out. So his location was basically empty, and there was no point of him going to Casablanca at the time. So whatever. So I don't know exactly how it developed, but Lepel, he went to the place that the Frierdiker Rebbe mentioned already, 13 years before. So he ended up in Belgium.
On shlichus?
Yeah, shlichus, but a different type of shlichus. He was like a very influential mashpia, a different style than my Zayda completely. I remember.
There's Zayda Mendel.
Yeah. I remember actually my second sister married.
I don't know if we said his name. Sadia Lieberow, right?
Sadia Lieberow, yeah. My second sister married Itcha Pevna, which is an enikul from Nissen Nemenov. So that chasna was in Tafshin Lamed Ches. It was
the mashpia altar.
Yeah, the mashpia altar, Itcha Pevna.
Yeah.
He's Nissen Nemenov's enikul. His mother.
Because we called him Fitcha in Yeshiva.
Fitcha, yeah. So he's
your brother-in-law.
He's my brother-in-law. So by his chasna, Tafshin Lamed Ches. So it was like really exciting because you had my Zayda Sadia and my Zayda Mendel, and you had Reb Nissen also. And it's a given geschmack, All we needed over there was Mensch Shem Tov.
These are three very different personalities.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, Reb Nissen and Sadia kind of more similar, but my Zayda Mendel is completely different personality.
So Sadia was more like straight.
He was more like Ernst and he was, Mendel was more the Shvi style, you know what I mean? Look, also these people, and listening to Sadia, we find out nowadays,
Not so posh.
No, I'm saying they were more devoted to the Rebbe than people made it sound like,
Right.
Between me and you, it's all from Shpacha, but the Shem Tovs made it sound like, these guys are, not makusha. They had a different style of biskashas.
Yeah.
But it turns out to be that even the Miftzayim and things like that, they were very involved. However, my Zayda Sadia in Antwerpen, the style was more like, Chassidus people.
Right.
I mean, he
from
became
also.
Yeah. He was like a holy man over there. Like that's also things that we also didn't kind of associate with it. That when a chassid gets a little too holy, like a Rebbe, something like that. No, but he had a very powerful influence on the Olam, the unbelievable. I mean, people till today that know Rabbi Lieberow, it's like but in that style.
How did he support himself as like?
I don't know. Maybe people gave him money. I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
he was like a full-time chayesnish mashpia. I don't know exactly.
Right.
I don't know when he came there, what he officially was doing. I don't know. That I don't know.
It was a different world back then. Also.
Yeah.
Things were
Not sure
different.
exactly. In Morocco, he was dealing with Talmud Torah, whatever, yeshivas, meisters, everything, Yiddishkeit, whatever.
So your mother grew up in Morocco.
No, which one? My father, you're saying?
Your father, sorry. Your
No.
father grew up in Morocco.
I don't even know if my father ever went to Morocco. My father already, when he went to Morocco, my father was already a 22-year-old in Brunois. Maybe one of his daughters or.
So they sent the parents away from the kids to Morocco.
Yeah, but the kids were not kids really. Maybe the youngest daughter, Zirkin, Simcha Zirkin's wife, was maybe. I'm not sure exactly. But I want to tell you something very interesting about the shlichus in Morocco. I just came across this letter not long ago, and in a way, it's a kind of in Ikras Kodesh, the letter's printed, but missing a few parts. And why they're missing a few parts? Because they're very sharp. So in a way, it's a kind of not a pleasant thing for especially a grandson to publicize. But I think it's so powerful just to teach us, what means shlichus. What means shlichus? The devotion that the Rebbe expected, not because the Rebbe is a hard boss. It's all about the Medafton. The Rebbe, in the later years when the Rebbe started the Faratzta, like Tafshin Yitches, when the Shlichim were mamash, the young Shlichim, like
Baal Shem
Tov and Geshem Mendel, the Rebbe shared a story important because there was some that didn't immediately say yes. So the Rebbe then spoke at the Sikh and Shmini Tavshin Chai story with Arizal, when Arizal asked his Talmidim if they want to go to Yerushalayim, and the Talmidim on Erev Shabbos. Talmidim had no suffix, they had no doubts about the ability of the Arizal to go from Tzfas to Yerushalayim. That wasn't the issue. They said that they want to go home and tell their wives Friday night, they have to tell, to Shalom Bayit, whatever. Ezel ve'imlich b'debesu, and then the Arizal said, "Oy, you lost an opportunity to bring the Gula." So the Rebbe says, "What's the Yishem? What happened?" They were big tzaddikim, and they continued to be Talmidei Arizal. The Rebbe explained, to bring a Mashiach, that's the word. About being frum and tzaddik and everything is all good. But to bring a Mashiach, you need the immediate response. And the Rebbe was basically talking about the shlichus. Shlichus needs, don't worry about it. The Rebbe says, I'll be nigla, don't even worry. The Arizal would have worried about your, like the Rebbe would never let someone go on shlichus without asking of the wife. But the immediate response has to be, yeah.
Right.
Then, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is, going back in a different style, going back then, my Zayda was, whatever, there was issues about where he should be, and then also this is the main point I wanted to say. He came out of Morocco after he was there for a year or two. He was 4 months, wherever, in France, I don't know exactly, yeah. In these 4 months, 2 of his children got married. In this letter, the Rebbe is telling him, 4 months, you went away from your shlichus. 4 months. I thought I know that you married 2 children in those 4 months. But you understand what I'm saying? That the man...
This is the Rebbe, not the Fidik Rebbe.
The Rebbe.
The Rebbe in Morocco saying, you left Morocco.
The Rebbe is telling him, you left Morocco for 4 months.
Right.
And then there was and then the Rebbe then says, look, I don't, shlichus doesn't work properly if you do it by force. You just have to let me know if you want. It's a sharp letter. It's a very sharp letter. But what it teaches us is that shlichus needed absolute devotion, no monkey business. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about Moshe Sati was a Heb in the Yid,
right,
and even over there, the Fierech, it's you got to go through the wall. That's it, and that's the hatzlach of shlichus. That even now you have Baruch Hashem, shlichus became a mainstream activity, which is very good, but we can't forget the core of shlichus. The core of shlichus is in ganzen übergeben sich. That's it. The Rebbe also said the first Yidal of Nissen that the Rebbe went to the Eil. So he said, Devas will geben Shmei B'Shem Imei, sich übergeben sich or something. I don't remember, I'm sorry, I forgot the Lashon. But there was something about full devotion, and the Rebbe says, I'm not going to demand and ask for climbing mountains, whatever, but it's serious business. You know what I mean? That's the way that the whole shlichus started, the whole whatever. But getting back to family history.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating stuff. This year marks 75 years since Yud Shvat and the first Bosi Lgani. If you're looking for an event that is memorable, meaningful, and affordable, let me recommend This World is a Garden, a film and live concert production created by us here at Yuvla Media, inspired by Bosi Lgani, the first mimer, the Rebbe said. If you're a regular here at HFL, you know that Bosi Lgani is something that we think about and talk about a lot. And in this production, we use the power of cinematic filmmaking and a live concert by a string quartet to bring the beauty of Bosi Lgani to your community and your audience in a way that they've never seen, heard, or experienced it before. The production has already been hosted by Chabad houses around the country and has drawn wonderful reviews. Our package comes with everything that you need to put in the production: the film's original arrangements for string quartet, publicity materials, everything besides the string quartet, which we recommend that you hire locally to save on travel costs. To find out more about this production, please visit thisworldisagarden.com. Again, thisworldisagarden.com. And now, back to the show. What about you? When did you start thinking about shlichus? Was this in the bochur?
I was nursing for my mother.
No, I was saying your Zayda was ki'ilu a businessman. Like, it wasn't exact. Not everybody was a shliach back then.
Right.
So when did you decide you're becoming a shliach? Like, the shlichus was a relatively new thing. I don't.
Okay, so when I grew up, when I got married, shlichus was
already a household thing.
Sure. So that was not.
So it was always a thing for you.
Yeah, like you say, when I went out with my wife, we didn't discuss shlichus.
It was a davar pashut.
Yeah.
Right. But as a bochur, do you remember when it became a thing? It was always a davar pashut. It
became a davar pashut already in the late chofs, in the lameds, Younger light already. Everyone was looking.
When did you come to? Where did you learn in yeshiva?
I learned in Lud, and then in Morristown. And then 770.
So what was that? The early mems, or
the late mems? It's 770.
You were in the late mems.
Yeah, I was a bochur mem ches.
Okay.
I got married in tes.
Okay. So what was that like?
In terms of shlichus?
No, describe to me 770 back then. Describe.
Whatever. I lived through the Notzach. I lived through, unfortunately, the stalkers of the Rebbetzin. 770. I mean, you need me to tell you the history of. Yeah, you have your money. I mean,
no. But I want to. That's what happened from that perspective. What was it like for you to come into that?
Let me just tell you an experience. You'll appreciate this experience that I had as a bochur in Morristown.
Okay.
In a way, just like I said, the Rebbe is always caring about everyone and watching everyone, but not always you see it begolly. You know what I mean? Like I told you a story when I say that. I have an experience that I. Unbelievable. When I came from Eretz Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael yeshiva is younger, used to be at least.
Right.
So when I went into Lud, which is kind of what you call Beis HaMedrash, I was 12. Basically, well, I didn't actually have my bar mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael. I had it in England back at home, but my class went in El Tafshin Lamed Ches. I was like a 12. I was in the younger ones. So when I came to Lud, I was just bar mitzvah. And then when I finished Lud, I couldn't go straight to Morristown because I was too young. So I went to Ocean Parkway. I stayed like an extra year because I had to catch up the age, so to say. I was in Ocean Parkway in Lubavitch Yeshiva, Ocean Parkway for a year.
Around the corner from here, almost.
Yeah. Then I had nothing to do with Flatbush, but
I understand.
So I was there for a year. That's when I joined my class, and then I went to Morristown. And in Ocean Parkway, as a young bochur, we decided to make an Oretz Atimimim. So I got an interesting answer from the Rebbe then. From the answer was kind of understood. The Rebbe was concerned about that there shouldn't be no doubles, meaning to say, those days in Tafshin Mem Aleph, there was 770 wasn't really giving out Horace, but Morristown and Olatera. So they're kind of, and Morristown's really New York. It's like in the same. So a lot of things double over, and the Rebbe doesn't like. The Rebbe likes also in Shluchim, two things together, kind of. It shouldn't be the same question asked in the same.
Right.
And then we suddenly show up and we think that we're giving a Nachas Ruach, which we probably did, but made a new kaivetz in Ocean Parkway. So the Rebbe said, "Shaliti anach polis, there shouldn't be doubles." I took it as, the Rebbe says, you opened it, okay, the Rebbe's never going to tell us to close it, but there was a kind of no point. That's the way I understood it. Whatever, but that's irrelevant at this point. When I come to Morristown, Melech Tzvibel, asked me to, that time he needed someone to take care of us, I took care of ours. He knew that I took care of it in Ocean Parkway. Together, I did it then together with the guy, Yossi Alperovich, Aiden Bay, Sudak. I think he was involved in Gershon Eichel, whatever.
He lives in England today.
I don't know if he even remembers yet. Could be, Stam remembers yet, but we did ours together. We were kids, I came to Morristown, so Melech asked me to take care of ours. I took care, so I agreed, and I was a one-man band at that point. Sometimes you have two guys, I was one. It took a year, and mamash a year went by, and I was falling under pressure, financial pressure.
Oh, you had to raise some money for it.
Raise money, hagdoshes, The yeshiva didn't provide, I don't know.
You had to print it?
I had to print it. Those days were not, I used to go to dandy printing on Flatbush Avenue or Chambers in Manhattan.
I thought you were in Morristown. You said
but I used to, but it's all from New York. Morristown is just the location of the yeshiva. The Ha'aras were produced by Morristown, but it was a production that was given out in 770. That's where it was the main place.
So you came to 770
Yeah,
you came to Brooklyn
that's one of the reasons I actually never spent a Shabbos in Morristown. Even though those years there was a lot of Farbringans, but because they were not mamash every week. Farbringans every week started only after the Rebbe passed away, but there were in the Mem Aleph the Rebbe started to do a lot of Farbringans. So yeshiva wants to crack down and said, no, there's weeks, if we don't know for sure there's a Farbringen, which usually they would know before Shabbos, but I ended up never staying. Like, I had this excuse, Horace and this, I never stayed for 3 years, I never was Shabbos in Morristown. So I used to come to New York, and I used to do it the last minute, that's my nature, whatever, and I used to type, those days there were no laptops, but I used to have a Hermes typewriter, which is a portable. I used to type it in the car with something, And then the competition with Olatera, and befrat that I was the one kind of chasing Zev Kadana to make sure that there shouldn't be doubles, because I had the feeling of that achayis that I got an answer. The bottom line is, to make a long story short, the pressure was weighing on me. Now the Rebbe was ma'ided like every good thing, in the Yonim of Torah, in a variety of ways. But Morristown got different, Horace from all places got different answers in Skabel B'tach, whatever. Then the Rebbe would also talk about almost every Farbringen, almost. Those years, I don't know exactly, whatever. But many Farbringens, the Rebbe there was like a Seder, the Rebbe would talk about the Rashi, and the Rambam wasn't then yet. But Rashi and Likutei Levi Yitzchak and Pirkei Avos in the summer. And once in a while, the Rebbe would also say, mit geschrieben in the Eine von the Kaiftzim, once Olatera, once this. And then there was also another level of idud where the Rebbe was once in a while magia the sicha that he spoke on the Horus. But here suddenly something unprecedented. I'm laying in my bedroom, my office bedroom, in the middle of the day, Pashas Toildas, like mamash a year after I took over Horus, and I'm depressed deeply. And suddenly someone knocks on my door and he says, Label Grown is on the phone for you in the office. There's no phones,
In Morristown?
Yeah, no one had phones,
Of course,
in the office. Label Grown on the phone, like a picture in Morristown, like what? I didn't write to the Rebbe anything. I come running to you can imagine, just out of nowhere. The Rebbe just gave out the Horace, because we always used to bring 2 copies to our Maskiras. The Rebbe used to always walk into, a lot of times to davening, the bochur used to look which one he's holding, the Rebbe would have in the siddur. It gave a lot of idud. But the Rebbe just gave it out middle of a Tuesday. And he wrote on the Horace, unprecedented. And that's something, the Maskiras.
What did he write?
Ha'aras on the Ha'aras.
I wrote Ha'aras on the Ha'aras.
Not that he spoke in Shabbos. The Rebbe was writing Ha'aras. That was the first time it ever happened.
On the Ha'aras of the Morristown Kuntras.
Of the Morristown Kuntras. And those days, so Lieberow says, "Come quickly to New York." For Lieberow, it was also a shock. He says, "Come quickly to New York and take it. You have to work on it. It's not, So, also, Martin Mosquitoes never gave out kisvei yad answers. Answers were always, dictated over the phone or written on a label. That was the policy, whatever it was. But here it's like a sicha, like the Rebbe's Magia sicha. You can't copy that because the Rebbe's, linking things. I come to New York, a whole new world. I don't know how to eat it. I don't know how to read it. It's like a whole, So I went to Yilkan, David Feldman, and they helped me out. And they went and we prepared it for next week. In those days, they didn't print the Ksav Yad. The Ksav Yad only came out years later. After Gimel Tammuz, it became I call it like a Torah Chadasha, because now you see what's behind all the Kisvei Yad, whatever. But those days, so prepared it. They went to the Rebbe wrote more, and I'm just.
These are artists on artists that people wrote?
Yeah. I'll give you an example, but we can talk over here a whole night. But I'll give you an example. Shmuel Pesach Bogomilsky, he's the type of person that used to write. A lot of people were kind of annoyed with this type of artist. He used to write tons of things, that we always used to look for material. You wanted your kibitz to have more pages. It's like a normal thing. He can provide you material, like from today. He used to write a lot of stuff.
And so all the artists were on the Sikha printed the week before?
Now, there can be different things. Ha'aras, just like today, Ha'aras. It's not
today,
different.
it's about all different sugyas. Then also?
Right, and also, now it's became pulpulim also. The Rebbe actually even wrote once that it shouldn't be so long things, because there's a difference between Ha'aras and a kaivetz pulpulim.
Right.
But the Ha'aras would be on the Lakutei Sichos, or on the Sicha that the Rebbe spoke Shabbos. And sometimes also you would have halacha and minhag. There would be different things, but not such long things. Shmuel Pesach Bogomilsky had, before my season, he had a whole vikuach with Nisim Mangel about God and Lord and the translation. But he was an interesting guy. So he actually ended up, because a lot of his things were not accepted, because it was
too much.
Controversial or too much or too, I don't know what. He ended up giving up his own kuntras called She'elos Pirushim U'Biurim. Smart guy. She'elos Pirushim U'Biurim is Rosh Hashanah Shmuel Pesach Bogomilsky. But I feel that he had a schus with all the tightness that people had in him and didn't like. And even this ha'ara that the Rebbe commented about was his ha'ara, one of them. The Rebbe wrote about two ha'aras, I think. His ha'ara, the Rebbe commented about. I think it's a big schus that he had that the Rebbe related.
And so Rabbi Yoel and Dov Feldman, they incorporated that into the old Sikha? Or
No. So, okay, there's a few things. Whatever. It's a whole discussion of its own, but... no, so I'll tell you about this one particular ha'ara, which is a very typical for Bogomilsky to write. The Rebbe, that's one of the reasons why I'm also very into not talking in the middle of davening, besides my father's education that he gave me. There's a Siman Chavdalad in the Geretz HaKodesh, the Rebbe writes about not talking in the middle of davening, very sharp. And then he writes that not to talk anything from the beginning till Kaddish Basra, Shachris, Arvis u'mincha v'chulu. That's what it says in the printed Tanya. So the Rebbe in Ha'aras Tikunim makes a kind of a correction, because what's Shachris, Arvis, Mincha? Either it's Arvis, Shachris, Mincha, you go the order from the night, or Shachris, Mincha, Arvis. What's Shachris, Arvis, Mincha? So the Rebbe changes it around, and then the Rebbe removes the v'chulu, because what's the v'chulu? So this is where Bogomilsky used to dig everywhere. So who would even think of, so he dug and he came up with a way to reverse the Rebbe's tikkun. He's explaining why in the Geretz HaKodesh it's not all written down to it's all copies. People copied, so there can be different mistakes. So he's suggesting how it's not a mistake. So the Rebbe dismissed his correction. So the Rebbe dismissed what he was saying. However, the Rebbe did retract his correction. He was trying to retract the correction by explaining why it's written like that. The Rebbe dismissed it, and the Rebbe explained why his svara doesn't make sense. And then the Rebbe wrote, and he wrote a whole explanation why Taka can be the way originally written Tanya. The Rebbe explains that Shachas and Mariv have Krishma in it, and Mincha doesn't have. It's like saying Shachas and Arvis, Vafila Mincha. Those 4 lines are printed down every single Tanya from Tafshim Mem Gimel on. They went into the Tanyas because the Rebbe wrote you look in the back, on the bottom of page Reish, it says that Hisaf Alach Hazman. So that was relatively simple. But then there's other things or take, for example, a few weeks later, they never did it again. It became like a kind of a routine. In the span of 2 years that I was in Morristown, it was like 10 times. So
that the
Rebbe would write on the Horus. It happened a bunch of times. And
but what was Rabbi Yael and David Feldman?
So they helped me understand it, how to write it, set it up, because you have to write Kosvu Kacha, and the Rebbe wrote this. I needed Menichim to help me, present it and print it in the following week. What the Rebbe's answer was, and now, for example, a few weeks later there was another horror from Bilsovsky. I think he's not around anymore. From Australia. He also just lost, unfortunately, a granddaughter, 23 years old.
Yeah,
I think so. So the Rebbe said that the Radats got smicha from the Tzemach Tzedek. So he commented, he made a ha'ara. That's what Horus is. The ha'ara that the Radats, according to the history, was a child in the time of the Tzemach Tzedek. So the Rebbe corrected. The Rebbe made the correction in the Horus, and the Rebbe wrote bracha miyuchedes me'atzemach tzedek. Sorry, bracha smicha kibul smicha. It said the quote said kibul smicha me'atzemach tzedek, and he asked on it. So between the word smicha and tzemach tzedek, the Rebbe wrote an insert, and the Rebbe wrote kibul smicha ma'admu maharash ubracha miyuchedes meha tzemach tzedek. So Taka, when they printed the Hanocha in the book, they corrected it in the book.
I see.
Whatever. So this is something that, also what I want to say is that I don't know what the Rebbe's cheshbonos are. All I can say is that the subjects that the Rebbe commented on didn't seem to be, can't wait from Tuesday till Shabbos. The Rebbe used to speak Shabbos about these things, right? So what was kfira was something over there that the Rebbe couldn't wait. It doesn't make sense. The only sense that it makes is that the Rebbe is thinking about me. And he says, I'm going to help Lieberow. I'm going to pick him up. And he did. He took me out of the pit, and he threw me up to the highest roof. I don't want anyone to help me. I didn't want any partners anymore because I was have to share the schleira. So a year later, I went to my brother's bar mitzvah in London. I got stuck a little bit over there. So Ber Lazar kind of came in, and he had one of the kisvei yad he got. So, but then later we had to kind of share. So because he already stayed inside. But I'm saying for the first period of time, so. It's a even though I don't know, different people have different things like that, but I feel that this is an experience that even if you don't have a begoli, the Rebbe is thinking about everyone. Like one of my I had this chus, the Rebbe was, showed it to me begashmias, but there's no other explanation. It's like the Rebbe is sitting on Tuesday afternoon in his room, thinking about me. He says, "Okay, I'll take care of him."
How did I know you have to go soon. How did the bochur then? You could talk about yourself specifically. What was it like to come to 770 in that kufa, the mems, and you hear stories from your zaydas and so on, the yechidis, a sharp brief, sharp letter, there's this kind of relationship, and you come in the mems and you're just one of 1,000 bochur or whatever, and you're squeezing at a fabring, and there isn't that personal interaction. Was it something hard to?
Well, you're growing up with it. You don't feel these things. I mean, what are you saying? That we didn't get that personal attention?
Yeah.
That's the way we grew up. So you
didn't see it as a thing.
It wasn't something that you stopped to think about. You know what I mean? In the mems that you're talking about, there was a major change with the yechidus.
Right.
The yechidus. When we were bochur in some sense, Enikis didn't have yechidus already from the late lameds.
Right.
The Yemeledes stopped already, but it's something that you grew along with it. You know what I mean? It's not something that you stop to think about.
Right.
And by the way, since you're mentioning about the personal, like I said, when things are not begoli, it doesn't mean it's not there. There's a very interesting.
I wasn't trying to make that argument.
I'm saying, but there's a very interesting answer, which is just another opportunity to say it. But I think I saw who it was. Oh, I think it was Reuven Dunin. I think whatever that he wrote to the Rebbe. I think in Mendalad, which that was like a year after the Yechidus kind of developed into Yechidus Klavis. I think Reuven Dunin asked the Rebbe, "Can I have Yechidas Kipshuta?" Kipshute. So the Rebbe responded back and wrote that it was right after Shavuos, and Shavuos the Rebbe did the Yechidas Klal 7 times a year, I think. So Yud Sivan, that year was Yud Sivan. So the Rebbe writes, "You want Yechidas Kipshute?" The Rebbe says, "Kva hoisa be Yud Sivan, Kipashut." No, Kva hoisa be Yud Sivan v'oid yoisa. I always thought it was Oid Yoser Mikipshute, but I think lately I saw a copy. I think it's Oid Yoser Kipashut. Basically, just to give it in a mashal, my mashal that I thought of is, first of all, the Rebbe is telling you like this. Number one, the fact that the water was once in a clear cup and I poured it now into a styrofoam cup or a paper cup, so the difference is that you don't see the water, right? But there's no difference in the water, right?
Right.
You want Yechidas Kipshutei? We had it. Just Yechidas in the Rebbe's room, you saw it. You saw the relationship. You saw the connection. And now Yechidas Klaus, you don't see it so much like you saw it in the Yechidas in the Rebbe's room. Then the Rebbe's telling you another secret. He says, no, it's not the same. When I poured it from the clear cup to the styrofoam cup, it turned into seltzer. The Rebbe, and the Hezbollah also is that because we have more emunah, because you need more emunah. You know, when you're in the Rebbe's room and you ask the Rebbe responds, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, or you're standing by Dalet, which was a kind of a substitute to Yechidas, and Label Grona gives you a push, and you don't know if the Rebbe heard you or didn't hear you, and then you have to believe that it was the same, or Yechidas Klaus, the Rebbe saying a Sikha, and or by Fabring, quote unquote, it was also a type of Yechidas. And then you walk by and get your Dalet and give the Rebbe the pan, it's the same. Says, yeah, if you believe me, it's the same, and it's even more than the same. It's more. So because of that emunah, that draws more bracha. That's the hezbollah, because it's more emunah. We went up a level. I mean, so I just met Hershey Kesselman yesterday. Married to my second cousin, to Sudak. So he maybe he once told me, but I forgot. He reminded me that my oldest son and one of his sons were born the same day. So I reminded him, and he remembered that day was a Yechidas to Gvirim. As soon as I came from
about Machne
Yisrael, yeah. And as soon as I came from the hospital, I went to 770, and I walked into the Ezras Nashim. That's where the bochur used to be, by the Sikha. And I walk in, and I hear the Rebbe talk about as a kind werd geboren. So you surround him with Shir HaMailas and the Psukim. I'm saying there was different ways of communicating. This
was during the Rebbe had a mitzvah to put a Shir HaMailas in every.
It was after, wasn't it? It was years later. I mean, this is the Rebbe spoke about that, I think, in Memdala. The Rebbe would mention it once in a while.
Right.
But I'm just saying that's everyone has a lot of different experiences where the Rebbe communicated with them by Fabring, and sometimes it would be out of the blue, a subject or something, and only the person would know. Sometimes it can be part of a sikha. I'm just saying.
How do you know when it's actually an answer and not the thing that you wanted to hear? So I saw this. So
Hagufa. That alone, if you want to hear something and you hear something, that's what that meant.
Well, maybe you're making. Look,
it depends.
You're looking for a convenient answer, and you find it.
Okay, so we're not talking. No. Just like today also, when people communicate through Igros Kodesh, I always say this 100%. I myself interpret and assist other people, but I myself won't assist myself. If the Rebbe's answer is about learning more, giving more tzedakah, you don't have to ask anyone. But if it's about something else, like a real question, then you can be you're negeh b'dava. You have to always ask someone else. The same thing over here. Depends what kind of answer you were looking for. If you're looking for something that you have biased about, then you won't be able to. You can't walk away. In any event, when the Rebbe gave you an answer, b'chsav, you also needed someone to explain it to you and help you. So Koshkin, again, if you're by Fabringen, you're seeking something to the Rebbe to give you a bracha or something like that. But if it's a question, should I do this or should I do that, and you're negeh b'dava, then for sure you're going to have to take that info that you understood and ask a mashpia. There's no question about it. The Rebbe's answers don't contradict the Rebbe's general hira of consulting with a Seder Harav and Mashpia. No question about it. You can't take a halacha answer from the Rebbe because you understood it. Halacha has to go to a Rav. The Rebbe's answer is only
right.
The Rav has to know, or the Mashpia has to know what you what answer the Rebbe gave you, whether it was b'chsav, like Goramo when it was more begoli, kol shekain now that it's not so begoli. You understand? Okay, that's a topic on its own. But this is
how long did it take you to work through this? I mean, you mentioned earlier the bris of your son the day after Gimel Tammuz.
Yeah.
And clearly things were not. You I'm sure you weren't able to articulate it then the way you're articulating it now.
100%. I mean,
how did you work through this?
Actually, I always complain about the people that knew exactly what to do a day after. It bothers me.
It bothered you
that they knew what to do exactly.
You didn't think you knew what to do.
No, not at all. I knew there was certainly Yonah and Muna that I had that I believed the whole time.
Right.
You know, whatever. I'm not going to get into the subject now, but you know, right. but how do you eat it and how do you share it with others? No, I didn't know exactly. You know,
even to share it with yourself, you didn't know.
Depends what you're talking about. I'm just saying. Yeah, things took time. I mean, you know, till I heard from others and I understood it and I digested it.
Right.
Not about my amunah and the Rebbe's B'suras Hagula. That I had no doubt. But till today, you have to know how to convey it to other people. But
no, we're talking here more about the fact that you feel like you get an answer or how to process these kind of things.
You have to remember that even before Gimel Tammuz, there was a tkufa that was also a different level.
I understand.
There was answers. There were answers. I remember myself. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember in Beis Yisrael when the Rebbe was in that tkufa that there was no even nodding with the head.
You say when it's in the hospital?
After the second Chavzayin Oda.
In the hospital?
Yeah. So there was even no nodding with the head. So then there became a whole question about Chsanim and Kalas and I remember then.
Saying how do people get an answer?
Yeah. I don't honestly. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I remember there was a discussion on the issue, and I remember just popping up and speaking like to the crowd. That was then in the whatever it was like a hall where everyone was davening. I don't remember what I said. I just remember it was a discussion. It was a discussion.
You don't remember what you said?
I don't remember exactly. My point was obviously that things that maybe there was a svara by certain Spitzchevre that maybe we
shouldn't get
married, something like that. I think so. And I don't remember what I was saying, but it wasn't the kivun of chiyuv. You know what I mean?
Well, but so what's your gang? That's an interesting question.
The gang is like the Rebbe said.
Why are you so clear that? No, but I'm teasing it out. Why are you so clear that if people were always waiting for the Rebbe to give an answer to get married, and here the Rebbe is still with us, but he can't give an answer. So people have a svara not to get married. Why are you so clear that they should?
Well, first of all, I can't say that this is what I said then.
No, I know that. But
I don't know. I think it was on Shabbos, so it can even be recorded. But I would say now, that Chlal, the Rebbe. First of all, the Rebbe gave heroes Klalius ahead of Chavzayin Oda. Chlal already in Mevav Mem Zayin, which those heroes Klalius was the kind of maybe preparing for this kufa. And B'chlal the Rebbe, not because Chas v'Shalom the Rebbe had no time for everyone. That doesn't make sense. These things are, it's all about avodah b'koach atzmai. This whole kept bringing of them against the nacht. It's actually the sikh of this week and Aleph and next week is very much Ramazim ahead of those days. No one would think, but it's a kind of ahead of Gimel Tammuz, where the Rebbe is talking about that you don't need any more the mechanech, the one that's lighting the menorah. You have to be lit on your own. Avodah b'koach atzmai is really the title for this era that we are in from Gimel Tammuz till today, which will be over. But it's all about avodah b'koach atzmai. And Memela, the Rebbe prepared, and the Rebbe said that he shouldn't have to be the one to give the answer. Now, it's not chas v'shalom, the Rebbe is not giving the answer. The Rebbe is generating his bracha through atzina. As Kiyadu, the Rebbe always did everything in a very subtle, simple way. So you think you're going to take Yedid Maven because it makes sense. Well, you're going to go to Yedid, and you're going to go to Maven, right? Right. So what's the Rebbe Uvgetan? You know what the Rebbe Uvgetan? That when you go to Yedid Maven or to Reifa Yedid or Shnei Reifa Mumchim, because the Rebbe geheißen, the Rebbe heist there. And I want to tell you something. I have an experience where I like to say the story only because I want people, where I had a certain amount of money that I got in unfortunate circumstances, but it was a certain amount of money for an insurance for my own accident that I had, and a part of that money I invested based on the advice of a real Yedid and a Maven, and that Maven himself invested together with me, and we did very well in the beginning. Then we cycled it the second time, and we lost our pants. And I'm very calm about it. You know why? Because I feel that the Rebbe told me to do it. The Yedid Maven is the Rebbe. When I come to the Yedid Maven because the Rebbe Geisen, he's no more his Yankel Beryl. He's the Rebbe. If I go to him, I'll be Seichel, then he's a Yedid Maven, and it's different. So the Rebbe's channeling his brachas through, like the Rebbe says, he can sit and talk as Sicha, and he's directly talking to you. But you need a higher level of emunah. So when we came to Tkufa that you're stuck and you don't have, because those days the Rebbe was still answering, even after the Rebbe said he's not going to answer, but he still Chas and Kalas was still getting answers, right? Till Chav Zayin Noda and after Chav Zayin Noda. So okay, but now there's a Tkufa that the Rebbe is not nodding his head. So then you go ahead, like the Rebbe say, and until the Rebbe doesn't tell you no, then you go ahead. Also now, when a person asks the Rebbe something, and I like many other people, use the Rebbe's Igros Kodesh, I don't like when the people say, you ask the Igros. Right. You ask the Rebbe. And one of the channels, other people go to Dale, but this is a channel. So the Rebbe, a lot of people do both, because you don't, over there you just can misspell, but you don't have a way, you're not making a keri for the Rebbe to answer you. The Rebbe, by the way, I heard, about the Chos and Kala, this is interesting, they went to the Dale. Okay, say that. How do you know yes or no? On the way back, they had an argument and they broke up. The Rebbe has his ways, it doesn't happen frequently, but I'm just saying, Evet gefunden der Weg, that's the Lashon the Rebbe said about the Frierdiker Rebbe. And a lot of information, by the way, that the Rebbe said in Tafshin Yud, was all said ahead of time. It's all merumas. Whatever. So I'm saying, the Rebbe, you say, till the Rebbe would say no to you, he'll find a way to say no to you. The Weiler does the game weiter and do it the way the Rebbe wants. So I'm saying, even now, when a person writes into the Rebbe, not always is there. I have a few stories that can blow your mind. Shocking, clear stories, mamash. Like you have what's called on the scale of earthquake. So you have
the Richter scale.
Yeah. So in Igros Kodesh, sometimes it's just like word for word. I know a story of a shidduch in my family that the whole letter, no remozim, the whole entire letter, except the date, was exactly whatever. It's a story it's a cake with a cream with a cherry. It's a murdic story, but ain't kind of mocking. Not always, but sometimes the person writes it and there's no clear answer. It's the Rebbe chooses. So what's the rule? The rule is very obvious. I mean, no one made up rules over here, but this is api seichel, that the rule is that you do whatever the Yedid Maven told you. I disagree that people write to the Rebbe on questions that are merely, should I go to this yeshiva, that yeshiva? You have to first consult with the right people, the mashpia, the doctor, whatever it is. And then when you write in, if there's a clear answer against what that person told you, you have to go back to that mashpia and show it to that mashpia, and that mashpia has to understand that it's contradicting. You understand? You have to go back to the Reifei. Let's say I have a story with a guy in one of my chevra that had a suggestion from the doctor to make a certain surgery that wasn't an emergency, and he got an answer that the Rebbe writes to someone about a different surgery, about kidneys, whatever, but it was about surgery, and the Rebbe says lo yikadai, and there's other ways to do it. So I told him, you have to, obviously you can't contradict the doctor. If a doctor said it was an emergency, then you'd have to look for a different doctor to find support for this. And sometimes I say that the answers have to go together with the Rebbe's general heroes. They cannot go against.
I saw that on your WhatsApp status, you have your WhatsApp profile, you have the sichos of Nun Beis. You've mentioned it also a few times. Just to wrap things up a little bit, can you describe firstly, how did you understand those sichos in those days? Did you understand that there was a different kind of sicha? Did you understand that something else was going on here?
Well, first of all, it was definitely exciting.
Push your thing back a little bit. Yeah.
B'shaita, it was definitely exciting. I mean, it's now, always when you look, you have more time, and later, and now that we don't have really, we're in a kind of an Eretz Tzia V'Oyev, so you look at these things, it excites me even more.
Really?
Than B'shaita. Oh, yeah. I see, honestly, in some of these sichos, I mean, you should try it out, but some of these sichos, every time I read it, I've read them, I can't say I studied them good enough yet, unfortunately, but every time I read the Sikhs, it blows my mind over again. Blows my mind. Some of them are
Give me an example.
take for example, the Sikh of Nosei Stam, Nosei's last week. You know that the Sikh of Nosei last week, Tafshin and Aleph, there was two Farbrengens. You know the famous story that they ever walked down, unprecedented, they ever walks into the shul with a towel and the kvart.
And Mincha, right?
Yeah, it was like, no, it wasn't Mincha, because Mincha was after the first Farbrengen.
Right.
It was Mincha time, what would be Mincha time.
Right.
8 o'clock, Shabbos goes out then at 9, and the Rebbe walks down to 770, no secretaries, no one, there's 50 people on 770, what's 50 people?
Having a second Farbrengen.
And the Rebbe decides to make a second Farbrengen. So whatever, and that Farbrengen, the Rebbe said to sing all the Nigunim of the Rabbeim. It was similar to a Farbrengen that the Rebbe makes a day after Yom Tov,
right.
Like Rosh Hashanah.
Matzah Yom Tov.
A Matzah Yom Tov, but when it's on Friday, the Rebbe would make a Shabbos two Farbrengens. The regular Shabbos Shuvah, Shabbos Bereshis, and then later, a few hours later, he would make the Yom Tov Farbrengen, the continuation. But Shavuos never comes out Thursday, Friday, and Shavuos B'chal was Sunday, Monday.
Were you there for this Shabbos?
I'll tell you the story about that. I lived in Crown Heights still. Tafshin and Aleph. I lived in Crown Heights, but it's so interesting. My wife and Krinsky, David Krinsky from Jem, are cousins. She's a Gorelik, and my wife is Posner. So we used to hang out a lot.
Which Posner? From Lud?
From Lud, Zusha Posner, yeah.
Okay.
So we used to hang out a lot in David Krinsky's house. And that Shabbos, my wife was in advanced pregnancy. She was like in the 9th month. So whatever. We spent Shabbos, the whole Shabbos there, we stayed there. And so usually people after Mincha, after the Rebbe's Farbrengen, Mincha, then you have a summer 3-4 hours. And people start rolling back into 770 from Ma'ariv 9 o'clock. And some people come 8 o'clock, it's like, you have different types of people, but an average guy is going to come 9 o'clock. I didn't even come 9 o'clock. I don't know if it was Yitzhak, Yitzhahara, my wife was advanced pregnancy, but I didn't show up even to Ma'ariv, whatever. Unfortunately. So it's already 9:30. The Rebbe started for bringing 8 o'clock. I don't know for nothing. Krinskys were not there. They were, I guess, either they were taking a walk in the street and they heard the noise from ringing. Somehow, I was the only one in the house with my wife. Suddenly the phone rings. So for some reason I picked it up, whatever. I already davened to it. And who was on the phone? Moshe Gorelik. He was in Luning and Blumwa at the time. And he says, who's this? I said, Zalman. He says, Zalman? What are you doing in here? The Rebbe's Farbrengen. I said, what? Farbrengen? From Blumwa. He calls me.
That's funny.
I ran to 770. I come in, I see a wall of people, and all I heard was Baruch Elokeinu Shachalnu Mishaloi. I came benching.
Yeah, benching.
And then Kosher Bracha I got. So that's my experience now for bringing. However,
they ever gave Kosher Bracha then?
Yeah. I never benched, never washed and benched and gave Kosher Bracha. Yeah.
So what?
Kosher Bracha was in a whole different area. It was like close to the Mizrach. The Rebbe for Bring B'chal, he sat. You know where he sat? He sat on the davening bima. The Rebbe went up.
Set up a table.
First the Rebbe was sitting on. Someone put the chair there, and the Rebbe put his sit on the banister. Then they brought the small dollar table, whatever. I don't know. This is what I heard. And the Rebbe was bringing over there.
Had wine and challah in front of him. You said he came to.
I don't know if they had wine. Maybe they brought wine, but the Rebbe came even without challah. There's a whole question where the challah came from. Some say Levi Gorella got it from Yom Klein. He brought it over the backyard. Some say they got it from upstairs. Ich weiß nicht. Somehow they alterated challah. They didn't even have a shtisel. Someone said that someone put a hat and the Rebbe refused, and then they found the lid of an urn, which is like sometimes you have this tall lid, whatever. This is a heavenly gezach, yeah. So in that Farbrengen, the Rebbe said to sing Nigunim, just like, the truth is originally the Nigunim was only Rosh Hashanah. Mamash, I think maybe Mem Dalad, Mem Hey became also all the Yom Tovim.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Chatchil is only a Rosh Hashanah Indian. And by the way, on a side note, I just want to tell you, Rosh Hashanah, B'chlal, they say that the Rebbe said it about the Rabbeim, that there used to be Meramas Rosh Hashanah about special events. Like Pei Zayin, we're approaching 100 years soon. You could have a different Inyanim. Rosh Hashanah Nun Beis, which is the last Rosh Hashanah that we heard the Rebbe speak, the Rebbe was Meramas 2 Inyanim Gimel Tammuz and Chav Zayin Adar. I mean, this is, again, it's open for interpretation, but I just want to tell you, it's very powerful, because there's one place where the Rebbe talks about the Tekiah G'dola, that it says Achi Yadimu Pnei HaTekiah, till the face of the Tekiah becomes red, and the Rebbe says Shahadam Oilol Hareish, the blood goes up, but it should be an Oifen Bari. I mean, a stroke is blood in the head, it's something over there that the Rebbes are kind of trying to sweeten. Then, early in the Farbrengen, the Rebbe mentions the Nigunim, so the Rebbe mentions the Rebbe, so he mentions all the names. Unusual, I mean, I don't know exactly how unusual, but it's every time it's a little bit different. But over here, the Rebbe mentions, you can see it's not in a Muga, but it's in a Bilti Muga. The Rebbe mentions the Rebbe, and when he comes to the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe throws in a very interesting line. He says, Ki yadua, that there was a special kesher of the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash. Ki yadua, the word Chassidim, Echad be'echad Yigoshu, Echad is a gematria Yud Gimel, and you have Yud Gimel Nisan, Yud Gimel Tishrei. And then the Rebbe says, actually that word maybe the Rebbe doesn't mention there, he mentions it many other times, I'm not sure. But then the Rebbe says, they had a special kesher, and the Friedrich, the Tzemach Tzedek hat memane given, the Rebbe Marash Bechayov, weil es ist nicht given sicher, es ist öfter sein, die Ingen von Wel'afa Tashuv, before Bias HaMashiach. Basically, the Rebbe is saying very clearly, you can look it up yourself, the Rebbe is saying that the reason why the Tzemach Tzedek was Mamana, the Rebbe Marash, it was because there's a possibility there'll be Wel'afa Tashuv. If you read it in reverse, and we all know very well that the Rebbe was not Mamana anyone, and on the contrary, we even know that there was a certain svara when the Rebbe gave over the information to Chodakov and to Mendel, so they kind of, the way it was all Baal Peh. So when they wrote it, not that they thought that they're going to be Rebbe or anything like that, but they wrote it in such a way that the pyramid of the Moisdes of the Machne Yisrael is that they'll be the kind of the top of the pyramid, and the Rebbe crossed it out and says, like, I'm going to leave the Moisdes in the hands of one or two people. Kilo, the Rebbe excluded any svara of any type of. So if you read in reverse, what the Rebbe is saying in the last Rosh Hashanah is that if he's memana because unfortunately there might be Ve'of Tashuv, and then so why is the Rebbe not memana? Yeah, whatever. Read between the lines. But I think it's unbelievable that the Rebbe's meramas these two inyanim, Chav Zayin Adar and Gimel Tammuz. But getting back to, I'm sorry.
So what excited you from Parshas Nasi?
Nasi, right? Yeah, see, you have a good memory. I get distracted. I go on side roads,
I get paid to be an interviewer.
Yeah. So Parshas Nasi is one of the examples. And again, it's not that I remember this B'dibur, especially this Farbrengen. I'm not a chayzer. This Farbrengen I wasn't even there, like I wasn't there, unfortunately. So, but in the Mugadik Sicha, let's go by the Rebbe says to sing the Nigunim of the Rabbeim. So in the Muga it says Aseres HaNigunim. So how do you get Aseres Nigunim in 9 Rabbeim? Yeah, actually in the Farbrengen HaYadua, where the Rebbe broke the union of the Sforim, Tesvav Tammuz, Tovshin Memhei, the Rebbe called it Getzebrechen dem Kos. When the Rebbe exploded with the Sforim, so that was that's not in Yom Tov. That's a very, very heavenly thing. The Rebbe made an early Farbrengen. He made it before Shkia. He said, I want to chaperayim before Shkia on Tesvav Tammuz. And the Rebbe said to sing Nigunim of all the Rabbeim. That's like a crazy thing. The only other time the Rebbe, not Yom Tov, was Shim Seif Teresh Mashiach. So the Rebbe said to sing all the Nigunim of the Rabbeim. And he said, because it's Hayom Avodah, it's not Yom Tov, it's a working day, you should do it Bekitzer. And then when Yoel got to the end of the Beinani, which was next Nigun would naturally be Hu Elokeinu, the Rebbe started the Maimah. That's interesting. Like, the Rebbe purposely stopped it by.
When was this?
This is Tesvav Tammuz Memhei.
Right.
But getting back to Nosai, so they sang all the Nigunim, including Hu Elokeinu. So now you have 9 Rabbeim, and the Rebbe says Aseres HaNigunim. So the Rebbe doesn't leave you to make the calculations. In the Mugadik Sicha, again, I don't know what's Milamayla Lamata, what's Milamata Lamayla, like who wrote it, but it's Muga. So the Rebbe, the count is like this. The Shalosh Tnuas is counted as 3. Then you have a Keliyata again of the Alter Rebbe. So now we have 8 from the Baal Shem Tov till the Rebbe, okay? But there's 9 Nigunim over there.
All right.
And then it says, Va'asiris, and the 10th Nigun, HaNigun the Melech HaMashiach. That's how the Rebbe counts the 10 nigunim. Nignu, Haseres HaNigunim, and he counts them like that. Nigun Asiri and Nigun Melech HaMashiach. That's one thing. It's one out of many other things. Then, on the name of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe many times would say that the Frierdiker Rebbe's name is connected to the Gula, right?
Right.
Yosef Shmei, Yitzchak Shmei. So over here, on the name of the Frierdiker Rebbe, there's a star, and it says Shabeis Shmoisav Kshurim Magula, and he brings the psukim. On the name of the Tzemach Tzedek, it says the Rebbe's name. It says by the Tzemach Tzedek. Over there it says and this a line after line. Shabeis Shmoisav Heim Shmoisav Shemelach HaMashiach. And there were many things like that throughout the year. So, but some of them came later, and when the Rebbe edited the Sikha, they came in later. But I'm just telling you, you're asking me what, the Oisias the Rebbe was using. First of all, the Farbrengens in that year, there used to be for many, many years, all the years, the first nigun that they would sing when the Rebbe made Kiddush, right after Kiddush, was the nigun of the kapitel. That year, it became Sisel Simchas Geula. Used to sing.
Nun Beis.
Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, yeah. So that whole year cycle, from right after Chavches Nissen, mainly from Tazria Matzera, when they announced in front of the Rebbe Yechi, the whole, more or less, all those Farbrengens are Oisias. The Rebbe's like bombing heavy stuff. I'm saying, this. The Rebbe, several times, the Rebbe says Menachem Shmei, one time says Reb Mendel Shmei. The Rebbe keeps talking about it. Well, take, for example, there's a Batanura and a Chassam Sofer that have a similar quote that I don't know, I never made a search yet, but I think in 40 years, maybe once, maybe not. In 1 year cycle, the Rebbe talks about it 6 times. What does it say? It says in every generation, there's a person that's Royal Elias Mashiach, and when the time will come, the Rebbe will send him. So 2 similar quotes. Not only did the Rebbe spoke about it 6 times in 1 year, in one of the places the Rebbe added B'Ksav Yad, U'B'Dereinu Nesi Dereinu, who it is. Like as if someone would think it's above the Rebbe. Like, U'B'Dereinu Nesi Dereinu Kvei Kedushas Muchadmur. The Rebbe was pounding that year so many different angles about.
What do you think the point of that was? How do you understand it? I'm not here to argue with you.
No, I'm saying without discussing how to convey it. First
I'm
of
not
all,
talking about that.
First of all, there was no consensus about publicizing the Rebbe then as Mashiach till Tafshin, almost by no one. Almost, I would say up to 99%. Everyone ultimately accepted this Likuda. Gradually.
But how do you understand it? I'm not looking to argue.
I understand that the Rebbe, we reached the point. Look, okay, I'll tell you very simple. Chas v'shalom, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. One day, we will have to know who Mashiach is. So I think that we reached the point in Tafshin Nun Aleph and Beis where the Rebbe announced the Giaz Man Gulaschem. It became an ornament. If you go through this whole history, which is a topic which I think is a very important, I'm sure the Sfarim and people wrote about this, but it's one of my dreams to really thoroughly go through the history of how this develops, starting even from the Gemara's times. But basically in our generation, the concept of identifying Mashiach, because we're closer to Mashiach, became much, much more than ever before. It's not a new thing from this generation. It always existed. Go through the Gemara, the Shainim, Achreinim, Chassidim, it always existed the Stei Chemed writes, "V'chol der hoya mashur etzlem miyom Mashiach." In this generation, starting from the Rebbe and Avram Pariz, going on the Frierdiker Rebbe, it started to grow more and more and more. But then there was always setbacks. I'm going very bekitzer, but the setbacks have a hezber. And then it's funny because one of the biggest setbacks was Memhei, right? Shabbos Bereshis Memhei. This Isur Chag. Everyone knows that. I was with the Farbrengen.
What happened?
Fire. Basically, it didn't start. David Shalom Ben Volpa was proceeding. He got this chinuch from Avram Pariz, there was a certain element of Chassidim that had, and they got it from the Rebbe. This whole thing originates from the Rebbe. The whole concept of identifying is something. It originates from the Rebbe. Do you know that there's a letter that was written to the Rebbe in Tafshin Lamed Aleph? Okay. I remember always writing to the Rebbe Chakad Mur Shlita. Yeah? Only in an Aleph it became Chakad Mur Melech HaMashiach Shlita. But now we hear that here and there were a few people that used to write to the Rebbe like that always. There's a famous story with Ber Kechein that he wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe smiled at him and says, "What's that from them? Hey." The Rebbe's commenting about it. So it was always part of Lubavitch. I grew up as a child, always knowing it. But then Volpa, which is a big London, he extended it in a deep pulim. He knows how to write. This guy, he's a super. He can write overnight a whole book, and he dealt with this topic. But he started to pull the string a little bit too much. And now also when there's opposition from within, it's a proven fact. With Avram Pariz's story, with flying papers from the plane, always there was a setback inside, so it caused the Rebbe to kind of hold off. Volpa didn't have the seichel to know when to stop, so he had correspondence. He was writing to the Rebbe there and back. This Simchas Torah didn't suddenly happen, and he was pulling it too tight. He was
right.
So suddenly, Shabbos Bereishis, they sang Chayal Edinenu, which was a nigun that they sang by the Rebbe for 8 years. You can see they even extended it. It used to be Chayal Edinenu, Melenu, Rabbeinu, Chayal Mashiach. In the later years, they used to sing Chayal Harevi Mashiach Tzekenu, and the Rebbe swings his hand, and you can see videos. But that was the nigun that the Rebbe suddenly exploded. And not because they sang it before, but it wasn't because of the nigun. It was like the pot boiled. You know what I mean? And then the Rebbe suddenly stopped in the middle of the nigun and started to scream all about I'm sterft auf Sama Jonas and mit der Gerät and don't dare to do it weiter. So I remember Yoel Kamfa bringing Yutis Kislev that year, a month later, upstairs in 770, and Yoel says in his life, he says he's been older for bringing, he's never heard the Rebbe address himself to the Yidden Mashiach as sober goli like that for bringing. And why? He explained. The Rebbe spends 10 minutes screaming how it's not the time to do it, you can't do it. The Rebbe, instead of the Rebbe saying, it's wrong, it's Hepech Halacha, cut it out, Shalom Yisrael. No, the Rebbe keeps explaining why it's not the time. Al derech, like when Yosei the Ben Shem Tov wanted to put out Derech Mitzvah. You think about it nowadays. What's giving out mitzvahs minim melech and derech mitzvah? It's like such a part of similar to Yoina Avtson that gave out Megoyle Legula. You know that book, Megoyle Legula?
Yeah.
So Yoina Avtson, your uncle, yeah.
My uncle, yeah.
So that book is a very innocent book, right? It's not like Rebbe Mashiach or anything, right? Do you know that the Rebbe didn't want to give out in those years, and later the Rebbe said to give it out? Things there was a change, not because the Rebbe changed his mind. It's because there's it's step by step. So he wanted to give up mitzvahs min melech, and the Rebbe gave.
Well, in your
so
mind,
what did you say then? He said l'chaim right away with my saying. I think he says the fact that the Rebbe wrote that it's not the zman, ain't the zman grum or something like that. He says that the Rebbe's telling you that not now. Wait, hold off. It's going to come a time. What I'm trying to say is that Tavshin Memvov, exactly. It's shocking. No one has a real explanation till today. 1 year later, 1 year only. Exactly to the day. I mean, a day off. The Rebbe suddenly said, and that's, by the way, one of the first sikhs that started the new trend of the Rebbe being Magid Sikh every week. It didn't start. It started Me'erech, and then it went Simchas Torah Mevov. What does the Rebbe say? Nosi Hader is Mashiach. And the Rebbe says, we can taichen Mashiach Hashem. Some of these nights, like, look, Mashiach Hashem is a title that Moshe Feinstein wrote on the Rebbe. So it's not really like, Mashiach. It's, it's like another one of those heavy, lofty titles. So the Rebbe says, we can taichen und ich will nicht verribel haben, als wir sagen, dass ich mein Mashiach gibschutei. Weil er dem Metzies, und die was ist, das ist Heche, verklei Sichel und Wasser Gossam, Yehilehem Ashalehem. Powerful. 1 year after the Rebbe screams about not saying it. But the Olam was still shocked. It took a few years till the Olam melted. But the Rebbe himself kind of reverses it. In Tavshin Nun, where it became a whole new kufa, when the Rebbe said the Gizman Golaschim didn't come stamazay, after the fall of Soviet Union, and if you think about it, it became, it's historic, people don't know this. Karogel, a lot of shocking things go, but the Eibishter pushes it under the carpet in such a subtle way that you don't let dafka. Do you know the Rambam quotes the Gemara Amar Shmuel, I think, Ein ben Elam Azeli Meisa Mashiach Ela Shibud Malchus Bilvad. The Rambam dafka explains, and there's a reason for it, that the transition of Elam Azeh to Meisa Mashiach will be. Don't expect the spooky stuff. That will come later. But that's not going to be right in the beginning. At least it doesn't have to be. And everything is a mushal. What's going to be? What's for sure going to be? The Beis HaMikdash will have. But there will be Shibud Malchus. Shibud Malchus means we won't be subjugated to America and to other nations, but we'll be in the leading force, like Shlomo, David and Shlomo. But really, Shibud Malchus, the main Nakuda of Shibud Malchus is Torah Mitzvahs. If you look at history, from Churban Beis HaMikdash till today, till Tafshin Nun, there was never a time that simultaneously in the whole world, and without pressure, Shlomo Melech's times or whatever it was the pressure of Shlomo Melech being the king. Nowadays, the Goyim are not under any pressure. Why are Goyim allowing us to do Torah mitzvahs freely? It's unprecedented, the whole world. So really, it started off with America. But then when the Soviet Union fell and the whole Western Europe, now, from Tafshin Nun Be'erech till today, we are in a historic moment where the Yid does not have any problem doing Torah mitzvahs, 98%. Even Iran. Iran's not against Torah mitzvahs, they let you do Torah mitzvahs. Okay, now you're having in Europe issues in middle, but overall, there used to be the golden ages here, there, but never simultaneously the whole world. This is something that I think, if you check history, for 2,000 years we haven't had this. But the Rebbe never used that exact expression, but basically that's what happened when the Soviet Union fell. And the Rebbe connected it to Gula, and that's when the Rebbe decided he gives Mangulasrim, and that's when everything changed. So now you're asking me what I understand from it. Very, 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 very simple. Because before saying the Rebbe's Mashiach before was a Chassidish hergish, but it went up and down. I mean, I'm trying to limit myself. There's a story that the Rebbe himself says about how the Rebbe doesn't say clearly that but everyone knows that the Rebbe spoke about people that were saying about the Friedrich Rebbe that he's Mashiach. And there was like one or two handfuls of Chassidim then, in Tafshin Gimel. Who were those two people saying it? Also, relative to those times. It wasn't in such publicity like now. Avram Perez and the Rebbe, they used to add, and the Rebbe says a story about it, that someone came to complain to his Rebbe, Haytach and Lubavitch is saying Mashiach is coming, was his Zogan Chazer is Mashiach, that the Friedrich Rebbe is Mashiach. And this Rebbe, they say it's the Kapishnitz Rebbe, Zalman Lieberow, told his Chassid, and the Rebbe saying the story, Nasi Tavshin Chof. And the Rebbe saying the story, and the Rebbe says, so he told him, the Rebbe told his Chassidim, what's your problem? Sagt doch Hachakale b'cholem sheyaveh. Und es nicht mehr, du weißt doch, es ist nicht der, und ich nicht mehr, was das ist er. This is the Rebbe saying the story. You understand? V'chulu. But it came to Tafshin Nun, then, now when it came Chav Ches Nissen, this is the history, this is the brief history. When it came Chav Ches Nissen, and the Rebbe said Tutal Sekend, so there was a few different ways that people took it. Everyone was shocked, right? The Rebbe said such words. So there was a few different attempts. There was an approach like Geshe Mendel kind of came up with some type of we're going to force the gula or something like that. And the Rebbe wrote him a very sharp answer. You missed the point. That's not what I meant. Then you have Ichke Gansberg, which was not a lazy man. You can't say that he was a person that toiled till the last breath. If you know what I'm talking about, Ichke Gansberg. He got up and he got up by Fabrengen, Shmini, 2 days after, and he says, "Tzadik goyza between the sichos, Tzadik goyza Kodesh Baruch Hu Mekayim," and the Rebbe will goyza zayin that Mashiach will come. And the Rebbe got very serious, and the Rebbe said, "The gimenish kenaya arbet, like I know what I have to do." Basically, the Rebbe said that's not the point. What was the point? You know the video where the Rebbe tells this lady. It's fascinating to see. She doesn't seem to be a Lubavitcher, but she came to the Rebbe by dollars, and she tells the Rebbe, "We always relied on you, and I want to see my son." Like my shver always used to say, everyone has a different reason why they want Mashiach to come. Someone wants the Rebbe to Madala, someone wants Tchisameshim. That's not the real reason why Mashiach has to come. Mashiach has to come because of Gilei Lakus. But whatever. But she's an innocent lady, and she's crying to the Rebbe, and she says, So the Rebbe said, but if I'm the Rebbe, you ever saw this video?
Yeah, I've seen it.
So I said, then I'm telling you that it depends on you. And then she repeats herself, and the Rebbe gets very serious. I always wonder, like, the Rebbe's a kind of not acting, quote unquote, it's like hafchu midas harachim and midas adin. And my interpretation for why the Rebbe gets so strict about it, and he points and he says, you. The Rebbe mamash kind of screamed at her. I think that the Rebbe was trying very hard to convey a message. Guys, it's not about me giving up. It's about avoida b'koyach atzmai. That's the tachas. That's the first sikha. The first sikha after Bosi Lgani.
So in your mind, even after Yezman Golaschem, or precisely after Yezman Golaschem, it's still avoida b'koyach atzmai.
Yeah. That last stage. Basically, the Rebbe said it right in the first sikha after the first maimer. Amadaf alein ton.
Right.
Obviously, there's a lot of avodah b'koyach atzmai done till then, but that's the only way you can really interpret. Again, I don't want to touch a topic and not give it the right amount of attention. But basically, the way I look at everyone understands that Gimel Tammuz is not mikra. Nothing is mikra nikris. Nothing. Kol shkein v'kal v'chem is something like this with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe also one of the logic ways that I can explain on not Lubavitch about this whole issue is I tell them, they ask people who used to ask, now they don't ask anymore, what about a successor? I tell them, think to yourself, the smallest, tiniest businessman that has a successful business running and he doesn't have a natural successor, isn't he going to look to do something with the business or just let it drop? How in the world would you accuse the Lubavitch Rebbe, which everyone knows is a very proper person, that he would take a company that he didn't build? It was built for 7 generations, and he'll just let it drop down the cliff. And befrat that the Rebbe took us up to the cliff. The whole Tafshin Nun and Aleph, the Rebbe says, come. And he takes us to the peak of the cliff and leaves us.
No.
So logically, there's got to be a plan. And my way of explaining the plan is avoid the b'koyach atzmai. The Rebbe says, you didn't get it till now. I'm going to have to kind of walk to the side a second, and I want to see how you guys are going to act without me answering and writing and bringing. Let's see how you can do it. That's my way of interpretation. And I think that I don't want to say chas v'shalom, I mean, the fact that we didn't finish the process till now means that we're failing. And we have to keep rethinking about it. I was just sitting yesterday by a chassan and talking to one of my old friends that unfortunately, we're not, we're friends, but we're not on the same side. And I was telling him, let's talk, like an army, let's figure out what's going on over here. It's an ongoing. The Rebbe used the words that Mashiach is Yoshev b'koytzer ruach v'kilin enayim, suffering in Golus. When the Rebbe stopped suffering, the Rebbe is suffering. He wants us, whatever. But basically,
what did he say to your? What did your friend say?
Whatever.
It was in Skabel?
I don't know. In Skabel, I told him, I'm waiting for a call from you. I've been doing this for years, for 25 years. I always call. I don't want to say no names now, so whatever.
Don't say names.
But I have friends on the most extreme side. But Baruch Hashem, we're good friends. But this discussion of this, there's a certain Maisa Sutton that doesn't let. Because the Sutton knows that there will be discussion, there will be solved. I promise you. I'm telling you, if there'll be discussion with the will to solve, it will be solved. People don't have to have the same exact views. I have a beautiful thing that I learned. Someone brought to my attention. I think it's powerful. I wrote an article once in Beis Mashiach about the Rebbe's it's called the Rebbe's last pencil mark, which is so significant. Al pi seichel, and kol shekein that the Rebbe himself said about the Frierdiker Rebbe, halavai hayu medakdekim. I wish people would pay focus to the last things that the Frierdiker Rebbe said, because naturally, a parent gives guidance. If he wants to give a beremes, he'll give a beremes, but he won't leave us. If a parent leaves a child, he's going to leave either a babysitter or he's going to leave a camera. He's not going to leave a child in the air. So the Rebbe left us guidance. So the last sikha that we were zeicha to hear from the Rebbe, which is V'yakel in the base. So Matzah Shabbos, it's a double you do it. The Rebbe, it wasn't the first time mamash, but still it was something that people spoke about. The Rebbe knew that Monday will unfortunately maybe be Chav Zayin Hadar. He's not going to be Magir the Sikha that he did every week. So the Rebbe made mamash 2 small things on the top of the line of that Sikha V'yakel. Now the Teichen of the Fabringen was about Machtas HaShekel, about Achtus. So all the years, like a lot of people, I don't know of anyone that I heard an interpretation or anyone looked for. The Rebbe, it was exciting to know that the Rebbe Matzah Shabbos planned Many years later, like it goes back 20 years ago, but 20 years, 15 years after Yuvla Media, whatever, I was sharing this information with a few guys in Chabad house. And one guy used to stop and ask questions, he was like, what did the Rebbe correct? He stopped and asked it. Like he didn't really, I'm telling him the Rebbe corrected, but I didn't tell, I said, really, you know what? He's right. How comes I never search what the Rebbe corrected? There's tons and tons of Kisvei Yad, but this is the last Ksav Yad. Unbelievable. I'm going to skip the first one. The first one's, it's very interesting. The Rebbe said that in most years, the first word, most years, V'yakov Pekude is Mechuber. That's what I shared with this friend yesterday. Most years, V'yakov Pekude is Mechuber. The Rebbe crossed out the word most, Reiv, and he wrote Kama V'kama. 12 out of 19 years is Mechuber. How does the word Kama V'kama instead of Reiv? I mean, it's a real Reiv. So my interpretation then, going back already 15 years ago, I didn't realize how right I was, that Reiv is not an Achdus word. Reiv is powerful, Al Pi Seichel, and Al Pi Torah. Reiv.
Right.
But you see nowadays, I didn't even know it then, nowadays you see in America and in Eretz Yisrael, the Miyut is kicking the Reiv. They're fighting the Reiv. The Miyut doesn't want to accept the Reiv, even though the Reiv is supposed to have the legal power, right? So what do you see? That Reiv is not Achdus. Reiv is powerful, but it's not Achdus. So the Rebbe says, I'll take out the word of Reiv, and I'll use a word which is barely correct. You can't say Kama V'kama on 12 out of 19, but Kama V'kama, because Kama V'kama is out. But that's not, this next one is greater. The next line, this is something that my son gave me this insight, Levi. He says, the last word was V'shana Zu V'yakov Pekude in Parshas Nifrodes B'fnei Atzmam. The last pencil mark that we have is, he crossed out the word B'fnei Atzmam. So in my mind, I was just saying, why do you have to have two words that are separating? One word's enough. Maybe in Hebrew it's more correct. Levi says, my son Levi says, Nifrodes, Deus Nifrodes, is a creation of the Eibishter, not by mistake. We're not sheep. We're humans. And we're all supposed to have a different opinion. That character, different character. Deus Menashem character, opinion. Why? Why do a husband and wife to have the same opinion exactly? Something is wrong with it. You're supposed to, like they say, Zohar Malchus, Maz, you're supposed to have two different characters. What's the beauty? What the Eibishter likes, the fist fights? No. The beauty is that even though you're nifrades, you're not b'fnei atzmam. There's two people running a family, there's a bunch of children, but it's mishpacha achas. You have a kehillah of 100, 200, 300 people, 300 days. How many kehillas is it? Kehillah achas.
Right. Being different doesn't mean that you're alone.
But it's unbelievable. This is the last thing that we have. I don't care. Let people, the more interpretations that are going to lead to good things are more welcomed. The Torah has multiple, but this interpretation is so powerful. And you see it, I want to show you. Just to prove how powerful this is, give a look what the Satan accomplished. The Emes, if you think about it, what does the Satan do? He takes a 20% argument of a husband and wife, which is legitimate. Stupid stuff. Yeah, legitimate. And instead of doing it the regular proper way, which is discussion, or sometimes even a third party, and then everything is solved. And the neighbors know that there's only one family here. The neighbors don't know that there's two. Children don't hear two opinions here, one opinion. There's two opinions, but they reconcile it, right? What does the Satan do? Satan Namachlekas, he has a special tool. He goes, he blows it up 30, 40, 50, 60, 120% Chilukei Deis. And then the Satan is so happy. You know why? Because it's not Chilukei Deis anymore. At that point, it's Chilukei Levavos. When I publicize this issue, every single time for 35 years from the Aleph, every time my mind is drilling of how to do it in such a way that it should be digestible. Like the Rebbe says, Eifan HaMeskabel, that take the dynamite, the tayu, and put it into tikkun. Tayu, I told these chevra in 770, tikkun b'tikkun is not our avodah nowadays. Tikkun b'tikkun, there's a lot of, Lubavitch does a beautiful things, that unbelievable professionality. That's tikkun b'tikkun. Tayu b'tayu is much easier than tikkun b'tikkun. Tayu b'tayu means you don't have to think about anyone and everything. You just spritz. Right. That's not the avodah. The avodah is tayu b'tikkun, which is a tough avodah, but we have kalim for it, koiches for it. The Rebbe gave us koiches to take 100,000 watts and put it in a bulb. There's koiches. It's heipach hateva, we can do it, but it's not easy. So what I'm trying to say is that in an Aleph, there's no question about it, then all from the base, the Rebbe shows us clearly that the time is ripe for the world to know what they have to know before Mashiach comes. There's a Sikha Mishpat in the Aleph, where the Rebbe says, Minui Malka Mashiach, the appointing of Melech HaMashiach has already been done. Ve'achshav tzrichim Kabbalah Samalchas Alei Ha'am. There's a concept. Mashiach is not supposed to drop with 8 wings from the sky on top of our head. We're supposed to accept him, but just like David HaMelech. You know, David HaMelech was anointed by Shmuel and Avi, right? Did he become king right away? No, it took 7 years. Till he was, first he had his fights with Shaul, that's something else. But even when Shaul died, there has to be Kabbalah Samalchus. It's all about, when the Eibishter needs us to be Mekabel him as a Melech, yeah. So Mamela, that's not an easy thing. And now we have the Nisoy and the Gimel Tammuz, but you asked me what happened in from base, and that's what was understood by everyone then. Everyone accepted that. Everyone understood that, wow, we've reached the time. It was like, I remember those days, I was like, oh wow. Like I remember years before, it was like a secret. It was like, a Lubavitch inside thing. And now we can say that Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, wow. It's like, I remember after Yechi, when the Rebbe came out, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah Rebbe still was not on the porch. It was just behind the window. But I think Matzi Yom Kippur, well, basically Yom Kippur Sukkot, that's when it started. So the first time the Rebbe came out, and it was a struggle. Some saying Yechi, some and they sang, one time they sang Yechi, and the Rebbe after 45 seconds said to close the curtain. So then the Rebbe you see, because he sang Yechi. The next day the Taka got scared. So the next day they sang Shibana Beis HaMikdash. 45 seconds the Rebbe closed the curtain, so there's no raya. It was like a struggle. Then what happened? Simchas Torah. This is when it started. Simchas Torah, most of the Rebbe came out earlier than expected, and most of the Eilim wasn't even there. Talucha. So, but the crowd that was there kind of, it was not in the direction. So they sang, well, all the hakafas, all different nigunim, and there's no Mashiach, nothing. So Berelipska, this is all his own, he kind of feels bad. He says, wow, Simchas Torah, the Rebbe's day, we're not going to say Yechi. So it comes already the last hakafa, and the Rebbe's holding the Sefer Torah. And Berelipska decides he's not going to sing, because the nigun of hakafas it's the nigun of hakafas. He's not going to start a different nigun. But he just, as soon as the Rebbe has a Sefer Torah, he gets the guts, he climbs up, and he says, he announces Yechi. I mean, the first time he announced Yechi was Shabbos Tazri Metzayir. That's the klal, before Chav Zayin Adam. So he announces Yechi, and the Rebbe makes with his head. So he announces a second time, 3 times. But the Rebbe makes his head so strong that the Rebbe pushes in a 4th time and a 5th time. There was like no question. Like the people that saw it, the Rebbe like mamish pushed his way through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And then what happens when you announce 7, 8 times? It develops into a nigun. So it became a nigun. So okay, say that then they tied it that it was not for the public, it's only for inside. Comes Chav Ches Tishrei, it was the day of Siyam Rambam, and again it wasn't such a big oilam, but it's on video. And the Rebbe comes out, and they start Yechi, and then the Rebbe starts shaking so strong that Moshe Klein had to hold the chair from the back, kind of the shumful. The Rebbe was shaking away, and I remember then, I told you the story, that I see it later, I saw the video because we were not there, we were Siyam Rambam, and I see the Chon Perman. I start touching him, I say, are we still here? Are we still here? Is this Gala still? I couldn't believe it. So, whatever. I'm just saying, it just was like so clear that this is now a new Gili. It's a Gili, not now. I'll tell you also.
But what do you do with that?
One more thing. I want to tell you one more thing.
In your mind, what do you do with that?
Let me tell you one more thing.
Because it's 30 years later.
One second. One more thing I want to tell you.
Okay.
Erev Rosh Hashanah Tafshin on base. There's a Mugadik Sicha. Always when the Rebbe spoke about the Tzemach Tzedek, you'd always sneak in the name of Mashiach. Actually, going back to Mem Gimel, the Rebbe started in Rosh Hashanah, Teishnas Bias Mashiach, Teishnas Geulas Mashiach. So, Erev Rosh Hashanah, Tzemach Tzedek's birthday of Tafshin Mem Daled, it's on tape. The Rebbe says, "Man will doch wissen, was es sein der Rosh Hashanah und der kommende Jahr." So, be'emes, aber gedarf sein Teishnas Divrei Menachem. And then the Rebbe smiles. And the Rebbe says, man kocht sich doch in Avas Yisrael. Und man will nicht aufreizen der Welt. You know what means aufreizen? We don't want to tease the world. That's one of the places where Rebbe sneaks in a humorous way, how Menachem and Mashiach is the same thing. Whatever. But Chalef and Erev Shandon base, the Rebbe talks about the Tzemach Tzedek, and he says that his name is Mashiach, when tut kol atolibay as a zolzain gili shmoy shel Mashiach, and technically you can say, okay, that means the gili of Mashiach. It's two things. Gili shmoy shel Mashiach, and bis denach gili Mashiach ba'atzmei. So you have over here the Rebbe's efforts in gili shmoy shel Mashiach. Okay, now go back to your question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the question is, what
do you do with it today?
You've spoken about that already, but you were just mentioning how at the time you felt like Mashiach had come.
No, it's not. No.
And 30 years later, so how do you deal with that?
I questioned. What I'm trying to say is, like, wow, are we still here? No, I honestly, obviously, I did not feel that. Well, again, later, you have to understand when the Rebbe said to learn in Yonei Mashiach. I think about this a lot of times. It sounds like, after Chavches Nissen, we expected a bigger explosion, right? And then the Rebbe suddenly comes to this simple learning Yonei Mashiach Gula. Yeah, it's a kind of, too simple for us. It's not dramatic enough. But later I thought about this so much, and I say, wow. The Rebbe's, like I said before, the Rebbe does everything dafka subtle. That's the Rebbe's derech. Because everything has to channel through derech HaTeva, which that's, by the way, an unbelievable teichen of the Sikh of Gimel Tammuz. The last time we heard the Rebbe speak, then Aleph, all about everything has to be derech HaTeva, powerful Sikh. So the Rebbe channels everything in such a subtle way. So, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say. So learning Mashiach Gula is like a subtle, gentle, very kishmaka way, like how to bring this powerful stuff into the world. Because when you learn Yonei Mashiach Gula, you learn so many different things that we didn't know before. We always knew Mashiach. Yeah, coming on Mashiach. What's coming on Mashiach? Some big bang is going to happen. Mashiach came. And when you learn Yonei Mashiach Gula, you learn to find out that it's a process that the marshal, there's certain places where it writes in a medrash, in Medrash Rabbah, that Bias ben David l'chud or Geula l'chud. Right? Bias ben David, that technically happened. Mashiach came. The Rebbe uses the word kvar ba. Mashiach came. And I like to always tell people, stop asking where's Mashiach. Let's ask where am I? Where are we? In other words, according to the Rebbe and according to the way we study it in the Makoros, Bias Mashiach did happen. The Geula is yet what we're waiting for. And even the Geula, according to certain sikhs of the Rebbe says very clear, and this is another thing. I'm just wondering, use an example for a lot of other people, if you know this thing that I'm about to tell you now. When the Rebbe said to learn Yonei Mashiach, the Rebbe said, Torah Shabbat, Torah Shabbat, the whole list, yeah? The Rebbe gives a list. Medrashim, Pnimiyas HaTorah, Zohar, Kabbalah, Ubefrat Torah Chassidus, and then the Rebbe goes all the way down the list and it says, Ubefrat Ma'amorim L'Lekutei Sichos Shel Nesidereinu. You aware of that?
I remember hearing that, yes.
So first of all, the Rebbe always, I don't use the word hides. It's not a proper word to say. The Rebbe always talks about himself. The Rebbe told the lawyers, Yoseda was there, but it's fine. The famous thing that they asked the Rebbe, who does he refer to when he says Nesidereinu? The Rebbe the Shveh? You know that? So the Rebbe pointed to himself.
Right.
To them, the Rebbe spoke clear. But everyone understood that Nesidereinu. Now, not Chas v'Shalom that the Rebbe is a kind of using the Friedrich Rebbe as a shield. No, the Rebbe and the Friedrich Rebbe is one entity that we don't understand. It's not the same as all the Rebbeim. It's like there's something there that they're one Metzias. It's like the Rebbe said.
Why are you so sure that the Rebbe wasn't talking about the Friedrich Rebbe? First of all,
the Rebbe himself said it, I'm telling you. But you're saying
he said it to the lawyers once.
Right, and he's saying
for that you're mefaneach a bunch
many times. I don't have exact makaris, but many times the Rebbe will talk about things that the Friedrich Rebbe didn't say that we know in any michtav, and the Rebbe Mashiach also about certain achrozes. Amachinge endik puts in the knepelach. The Rebbe says in the name of the Friedrich Rebbe. I don't think there's any place that the Friedrich Rebbe says. Friedrich Rebbe is the one that spoke about this geblibbenach puts in the knepelach. The Rebbe says Amachinge endik puts in the knepelach. See, there ain't no machas given. I think that's in the Sikh of Nosai also. One of the places. But Mach is given. Who's the Sidereno? Where did the Frierdiker Rebbe say it?
So why is he saying it about the Frierdiker Rebbe?
Because the Rebbe and the Frierdiker Rebbe is one entity. It's one Matthias. The Sikha of Beis Nissen, Memches, which is the only Beis Nissen that the Rebbe ever verbringt, which is an interesting inyan of Neatzmei. Because the Rebbe verbringt every Yom Haledes and every Yortzeit of every Rebbe, but Beis Nissen, the Rebbe, there's a kind of, okay. So in that Sikha of Beis Nissen, Memches, the Rebbe starts off the Sikha saying, but it's the Sikha of Yechia Melech, talking about, when the Rebbe spoke about the inyan. It wasn't the Rebbe just mentioned it, the Rebbe had a whole build-up, how it's important to say Yechia Melech, because it adds chayes to the Melech. So the Rebbe starts off the Sikha saying that it's 68 years of the Nasias of the Frierdiker Rebbe, of Nasi Dereinu. How many years was the Frierdiker Rebbe Nasi? 68 years? You have 30 years from Tafresh Pei to Tafshin Yud, and another 38 years to Lam Beches, to Mem Ches. So, you see how I'm talking about? It's one Nasias. That the Rebbe talks about this.
Or you could say that the Frierdiker Rebbe became a Nasi 68 years earlier, and the Rebbe believed that the Frierdiker Rebbe is still a Nasi the whole time.
Okay, but we all know that the Rebbe is a Siderenu. The Rebbe didn't say that he's...
But maybe he felt the Frierdiker Rebbe was his Siderenu.
Yeah, the Rebbe Taka once said that the Siderenu, and he's just the hands and feet. I'm
not here to argue. It just seems to me that the Rebbe actually believed that the Frierdiker Rebbe was a Nasi.
Right, but the Rebbe also knew the reality. The Rebbe didn't know that he's a Nasi.
I don't know that we understand these things better than he did.
Doesn't the Rebbe say Chalashvi and Chavivin? Doesn't the Rebbe say, the Rebbe talks about the seventh generation? Even though the Frierdiker Rebbe is the Nasi now. I'll tell you a better one. I remember hearing it. I remember hearing it by Fabrengen to Skisler. I remember hearing it by Fabrengen. The Rebbe mentioned the name of Chalashvi and Chavivin. So the Rebbe says like this. Sometimes they say from the Baal Shem Tov that the Rebbe Rashab was the Shvi. It's brought down before. It says, we can doch sagen from the Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe kind of poses. Aber wie bald das Sache der Reino, was man haben, das der Reino, muss man sagen, als Dinge von der Shvi hebt sich an von alten Rebben. You know what that means? The Rebbe is clearly saying that he's der Shvi. Clear. You can't get it clearer than that.
I mean,
the Rebbe says "Anachnu." He says "Uns alles and der Shvi."
I understand, but we're talking here about the Rebbe saying that the Frierdiker Rebbe is in Siderenu and saying that he didn't mean that, he meant something else. That was my only point.
No, it didn't say he didn't mean that, he meant something else. He meant that, and he meant that. The Rebbe is one entity with the Frierdiker Rebbe. I don't have to explain it. I can't explain exactly what it means. But the Chlal, all the Rebbeim are one entity. But here there's a Dova Meyuchad, and the Rebbe also relates to it. He explains the difference of this generation and other generations. And that's it. The Rebbe is, from one side, the Rebbe is
so let me ask you a question to wrap it up. Yeah. I mean, I didn't come here to argue.
Right.
As you mentioned,
came here to discuss.
No, and as you mentioned, there are differences of opinions, very strong differences of opinions about these topics. And
actually, I want to make a correction. My opinion is that there's not very strong difference of opinions of the topics. If there is, it's only a lack of knowledge that people have. I personally think that the real difference, ultimately, if it will be discussed, is in differences of how, if and how to publicize it.
Well, I know. I'm
telling you,
I know, but I also know
if
that.
If you want, some other day, I'm telling you, I'll show you.
Hey, look,
you won't argue with me.
I'm not here to argue with you.
You won't. You won't be able to.
Fine, but I can say that there are many people who would disagree with that assessment and would say there are sharp differences of opinions.
In what?
If
the Rebbe is called Nasiya,
in a lot of the things that you mentioned. What does Mashiach mean? What actually did change by Gimel Tammuz? What really happened before Gimel Tammuz, and so on. These things, a lot of these things, even you're acknowledging in the past few minutes that a lot of these things are himmeldik Zachen, right? And
right.
So
what's himmeldik is himmeldik, but
right. So I don't want to.
That might be an argument if Gimel Tammuz changed anything.
I don't want to be the person here to. I don't want to. I didn't come here to argue with you. I don't want to be the person to represent another side. I don't even want to be the person to represent that there is another side. But we know that there's sharp differences of opinions here. So the question is, I mean, really, I don't know that I need to pose that as a question. It seems like you feel that really everyone agrees. So I was going to ask, how you spoke about people coming together. How would you come together with people who disagree with you?
By discussion.
by discussion.
No, by a chasna and to give we're there. We're
Right.
there. That's not a problem. Baruch Hashem, you have always these extremes, but overall, I'm there, and I personally am friendly with everyone. But coming together, I mean it deeper. When I say come together, I don't mean make a joint event and avoid certain things. No, that's nice, but that's not.
To get
together, I mean discussion, like a husband and wife.
To get to the kishkas of it.
Okay, let's put it this way: if a husband and wife don't throw chairs at each other and they live peacefully in two separate rooms, that's not it.
You're not advocating that every husband and wife should throw chairs at each other. You're not advocating that all husbands and wives should throw chairs.
No. I'm saying it's not enough. I'm saying it's not enough.
Just to get along.
Just the fact. Yeah, I'm sorry if you got me wrong.
Yeah. No,
if the husband and wife are peacefully living in the same house in two separate rooms,
right?
But they don't throw chairs at each other, that's not enough.
Right.
It's like saying for a yid to be kind and to be nice, it's not enough. A goy darf eichen sein, kind and nice. A yid has to do Torah mitzvahs. A husband and wife cannot just be good by not throwing chairs at each other. There has to be discussion, and they have to reconcile. So you're asking, how do I view the opposite sides? So I'm telling you, I view that the opposite sides, it's only Maisa Satan that's why.
But they don't see themselves that way.
I want to ask a question. Why is it that every nobody, quote unquote, Meshachist, will be ready to come to a discussion in any given moment? But when I ask people on the other side, come to a discussion, no one's gonna. It's not like a discussion. You have to be nothing. No one's forcing no one nothing. Just come to a discussion to analyze, to hear each other. And it never happens. I've tried it. I've tempted it many times, and I'll tell you why. Because the Satan Hamachloikas, that his job is to turn a 20%. I claim it's a 20% difference of opinion, which is legitimate. The Satan Hamachloikas has a special balloon that he turns it into 120%. Now, if there's going to be discussion, then he won't achieve. That's what I'm trying to say. If there will be discussion, I'm fully convinced.
You go into that discussion open that you might change your mind also on something?
Obviously, anyone that comes in discussion is not planning to change his mind, but if I have to, if someone will prove me by the way, many times I've asked, as a joke, I've asked some of my friends, could you even show me a ksav mezuyef from the Rebbe that contradicts this view? As a joke, I would say, show me even a ksav mezuyef. No one ever came. You know what people say about this whole discussion? Everyone knows that the Rebbe's kav in the
But let's not get back into the arguments about it. My point is
discussion. That's what I meant to say.
Discussion.
I think discussion will reduce, just like a professional shalom bayis counselor. His job is to reverse back and try to bring it back down from 120 back to at least to 50 or 30. That's what I mean. If there's discussion and you want to go to therapy, so to say, and I believe it's going to come down to a very low level. That's what I believe. I can articulate it in a very simple way. I mean,
on this I can agree with you. I'm here because I believe in discussion. I didn't come to argue, and I don't think I argued. But a lot of the things that you said are things that I don't either I don't know enough about or I don't agree with. But I still feel that there's a value of discussion, of hearing what other people think.
Right. I'm ready to hear. I always wonder where's it coming
hearing
from.
what other people think, and it might be uncomfortable for some that people have ended up in such different places on these topics that are very important. But at the end of the day, just a few generations back, we all come from the same place, and so it's important to know where people are at and why they are where they're at. And I do believe in conversation.
I want to tell you something.
I think it's a very nice part that you said before, that it's one thing to be deis nefradis, to have differences of opinions, but it doesn't have to lead to bifnei atzmam.
Right.
When people are in their own echo chambers, listening to themselves, talking about the other people instead of talking to those people, I don't think it does anybody any good. You have to be able to hear other people's opinions,
and we can remain in different.
Yeah, and you can think they're wrong. You can think they're wrong, or you can think that you're not willing to accept what they have to say. and you can still talk to them. I do believe that. I do agree.
And just to really wrap it up in literally 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
I think that you, with these two little mics and your experience, I think you are the person that can bring together a few people. It can be two, it can be, but but it has to be public. I think to say it has to be a discussion that you know the people are going to view. And I think you can do that. You can bring together people. I'm always ready, with respect and everything, and to discuss.
I'm doing it in my way. The kind of a symposium where it turns into debate is a much more complicated thing to pull off. But the way that I'm doing it is by talking to people, myself, letting other people hear those conversations, and I think that itself, people that maybe heard about you but never heard you now have a chance to hear you. They might think that you're crazier than they thought. They might think that you're less crazy than they thought.
I personally, I think that if people would hear me,
right.
I don't mind to be crazy. Crazy is, not a bad thing.
But you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
100%. I think that people will be shocked. I think there's a lot of information that maybe it shouldn't be like you said, a debate. Maybe you're right. Maybe it should be in separate times. But I think that a lot of the information that I have to share, which is all printed black and white, and every Lubavitcher has those for him in his house.
Right.
And I think just listen, just hear. I want to hear. Tell me what you know. All information is there. You know what my dream is? My dream is not that everyone's going to agree to each other, but you know what? If everyone would say 1 second, there's something there. He's saying something. We are supposed to care about the surrounding, and we have to make this dynamite, this Torah become tikkun. Now they say the joke. They say that some people say often hamit kapel. Mit kapel is an expression in Hebrew where you are kind of fold yourself, like you give in. That ever didn't mean that this is too hard to deal with. People cannot understand it. We're gonna closet it. No, that's not what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe says you will find a way how to get this message out. And look how public the Rebbe went with it. Fakert, I look back when the Rebbe stopped it. It's all in order to make it stronger later. It's called Hapesha Asa Hu Hapesha Hite. The same Rebbe that screamed, stop, 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 stop. And suddenly the Rebbe is, whoa, left to right. The Rebbe is encouraging it. But the Rebbe didn't know how people are going to interpret his encouragement.
Look, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back into that debate.
Okay.
But I think, and I don't think it was a debate at any point of tonight. But I think it's valuable. People listening may disagree with you. They may feel
That's okay.
They may feel uncomfortable by some things you said. I personally, I think I've made it clear, that I and people that know me know that I don't agree with all these things. But I still think it's important to listen.
But you know that in order not to agree, you have to know what you're not agreeing about.
No, fair. Okay, but I think there are also some basic hanachas that I don't agree with, and again, I didn't voice them because I didn't want this to be a debate.
Right,
I think it's more important that we hear each other and like you said, if you disagree, you should know why you disagree.
Right. So
and also that's not the point. The point isn't to disagree. The point isn't that's not the point. The point is to hear where people are coming from, to see what you can learn from other people,
and to be able to be together despite the fact that we have different opinions.
Yes, amen.
And by the way, this discussion was, you invited me, you asked me.
Yes.
I'm now asking you if we can have another discussion where we could discuss this issue. As a discussion, not as a debate.
Yeah, we could. I don't think I'm the right person to...
But you have the mic and you have the tools, and maybe it could be.
Maybe.
And if you want to bring someone along, I think it'd be nice. Don't call it a debate. I think it's an opportunity where people can hear each other with the will to hear each other.
Maybe.
And I'm ready to hit the other side first. I'm curious. I'm actually curious.
When the time and opportunity presents itself, I'm certainly open to it.
Because I see it as a step to bring the Gula. And for that, you have technical delays, I understand. But it's something that I look at it not as entertainment. I look at it as
I'm not
crucial.
I'm not pushing you off. I'm just let me think about it.
100%.
All right, Devila, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate
It's gone a little bit longer than I promised, but I hope it's good.
to accomplish the other stuff that I have to.
All right, I go to Nach.
Okay, I go to Nach. Thank you very much.
music for this podcast comes from the album Repentance Doors by Oren Sor Nadav Bachar and is used with their permission.